I'm Mark McIntyre, Chair of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation, and with me, my fellow board members, Jane Clare, Jeff Broadleib, and John Gregory on attendance, and we have quorum, so I'm going to move that we open the January 23rd meeting of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Also joining us tonight will be Alex Wallach, our the building planning director will be on Zoom. We have our counsel, Alice, with us tonight, Alice Cooley, and Sage running in the back, running all our sound and lights and sound in the back, so I think we're ready to go. I believe the first thing we have up today we have no minutes of approval. So I think the first thing we have tonight is a pre-submission conference for, and by the way, the trust at 88 Gin Lane, so I see you here. So let's go.
First instead of last this time, right?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Averages out.
yeah, see, somewhere in that, you're in the middle.
I think what we were hoping to hear some feedback from you guys, that you were, last time we left, you said, all right, we're gonna get the last board members to take a look at the property and then either give us some indication that you're willing to entertain this application or tell us something else.
I believe that's where we did leave it. So I'm going to turn to the board members for comment.
I am willing to entertain the notion of moving the property. How and where is, I think, up for discussion, but I think it's worthy of discussion.
Okay. Jane?
I did see the property, thank you, and
Jane,
I
can you
always,
pull your mic a little closer? Thank you.
I like to take into consideration the landscape also, because I think it's equally as important as the buildings at times, and there's this wonderful alley that goes down from the gates to the ocean, and I think that's what swayed me, that we should consider moving it because of that, because that would be saved, and the additions would be on the back of the building rather than the front of the building, which I think might not be conducive to the history of the structure.
Okay. Whoop. Thanks. And for my part, I'm not inclined to approve the relocation of the building. And I go back to our local guidelines, which say relocating a building either inside or outside one of Southampton's historic districts should be considered only as a last resort to avoid demolition. Removing a building to a different location on the same property in order to take advantage of a better view or to make room for additional buildings is strongly discouraged. Now, part of my rationale and reasoning is that, in fact, it comes from conversations, John, I've had with you, in which you offered up the possibility of leaving the building in its current location, doing a residential structure flush to the rear of the existing building and to the right, to the west of it, and that way would maintain the existing structure in its existing location. You added that that is a possibility, it's doable, and that the applicant has the wherewithal and the means to do it. So it's not because of anything other than a personal desire and wish to move the house. And as such, I'm inclined not to approve a relocation. However, I am not totally against it, and it would be highly subject to maintaining the pristine nature of that building, although it's, when I say pristine, I mean in terms of the integrity of the architecture and the historic and the fenestrations and the details and all of that. I haven't seen anything yet, and maybe because it's premature to do so, that would give me confidence that even if the building were rotated 90 degrees, that everything, and I underscore everything, of historic nature would be maintained. So I'm inclined not to approve a relocation, but I'm not absolutely against it.
And just to clarify my point of view, that's a given from my standpoint, that the building would remain as is, restored, obviously. But I am in favor, not in favor, I'm open to the idea of moving the structure.
Here's where I come out on it. I guess I'm not 100% opposed to moving it, but there are a bunch of caveats with it. Number one, in looking at the building and walking it now twice and understanding the land, if we move the building, I think it's probably the strongest ability to preserve as much of the original frontage of that building facing the street as possible. I think what you'd have to do to that building, because it allows you to put whatever you do to it, to extension or whatever, to make sure they're subservient to the original structure and follow all the guidelines. But I think you'd do less total damage to the facade of that building in a 45-degree move than the accommodation you'd have to make to leave it where it is, to move it from its intended use in 1914 to its intended use today, which takes it from a 14-horse barn to a residential structure. Now, I say that as just a guideline because we haven't actually seen anything to understand what that would look like. One of the two things, first of all, I applaud the owner for his desire to lift and repair and maintain the structure, because it's one of the most important structures, especially on that street in the village, which I think is great. I just, and I know from your other work the care that you will take. But the one thing that I would be looking for, should that decision be made, is how do you do that in a way that does as little alteration to the facade facing Gin Lane as possible? Because now that, what is now facing west would be facing south.
Correct.
I guess it'd be facing north.
Well, and with, to add to that, would it be necessary to move it at a 90-degree angle to its current location? Could it just be moved?
It would have to come back now because they're moving.
No, but I'm saying it wouldn't have to be a turn of the house toward the beach. It could just be a move out from the current position.
Could be.
Right.
So relocation without reorientation.
Right, exactly. Thank you.
I can't speak to code if they could do that, because if you move the building, because right now it's non-conforming, so if you move it from its non-conforming location, does it then have to go to a conforming location?
Well,
Because it's currently non-conforming and it's set back from Gin Lane.
right, well, that would be the idea,
But we could argue toward that in your behalf.
If I may?
Sure.
So we would have to maintain, it's my understanding that if you did the move, you would have to move it to a conforming location, which would be 80 feet from Gin. I guess technically you could fit it. I suspect that might be very odd looking, having
Just
the
a
side, which is
consideration.
somewhat hidden because it's 18 feet from the road. That might be a very awkward move. Anything is possible. And to Jeffrey, to your point, as I recall, I didn't offer up the idea of doing an L or a J, but described it with you when we were walking the property that it is possible. But I thought I made it clear, and I'm sorry if I didn't, that architecturally, I don't think that's the answer at all. But I've said that from the beginning. But technically, yes, it could be done. But it's architecturally, it's in competition with the beautiful building. Anything we add to that building in that location.
Especially also its size and mass.
It's rather large. And do remember that you would need to add a building, 2 stories, to be able to get to the second floor of the existing building. And in order to do that, you can't add on the current south end, because that's 1 story. So you'd have to add on the center of one of those gables. So the building itself, the back of the proposed J, if you will, would be in line with the back of the existing building. So it is forward, of course, 80 feet back, but it's going to be 25, 30 feet away from the main facade, because your code says that for it's a 2-to-1 ratio for a connector. So if I do a 40-foot connector, it would be 20 foot wide. So it would be 30 feet away and 2 stories.
John, I think someone from your office is on Zoom. Maybe they're looking
It's
to share a site
it's-
plan.
It's probably me, hopefully. If it's of any value, I'll certainly share it with you, but
Up to you? You're on the.
I would like to be reminded of the location of the historic gardens. I know we had discussed that.
okay, let me give it a try. Look at that. Oh, no,
Do you have to raise your hand so Sage can?
no, I did that already before.
Okay.
The risk of sounding crazy, it's, How hard can it be?
There you go.
I'm just gonna set this right here if I may for a moment. One document. If I may, you can see here
Mhm.
is the existing building, and here's the proposed building right here. Here's the back of the property, and there's that alley of trees coming down this way.
So that they're really unaffected in the,
Well, your question is, what's your setback from the street?
The setback?
Is that an
Yeah,
80-foot
it's 80.
setback?
Yeah.
And the hash lines of those, that's additional,
That's the addition off the back, and set back 15 feet from the front. So everything is back from the primary end.
right, but that's, all right, you know, without having seen it, it still may.
This is in your file, by the way?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Might make it, you can also kind of tell if you don't rotate the building, but you tried to set it back to where it is, it would be almost impossible to do an addition without it, with it still being subservient to the main building. It just, you're left with really no ability to do that other than down at the bottom of the property. And
Perhaps, although I don't have this on here, if I could just hold this up.
Well, you say can't, and, you know, you could leave the existing building as it is, so it's your desire to expand on the existing structure. So anything would, so I just, you would,
You could
I
also-
cross words.
Yeah.
Everything you say, when somebody says, I have no choice, which people say when they come to us, I'm not saying you're saying that right now, but when you say you can't do something, you can. You don't have to add any additional structures. You can simply turn that around if you wanted and leave it as it is.
But
You're
my
adding
point-
something which you're making the
I
claim is
understand that,
subservient.
But my point was solely if you're going to do an addition, which that is part of the project goals on this, is to get some additional space out of it, because it's, you walk through it, it's an extremely awkward design.
I would tell you that I
So-
don't support the notion that the only way to do an expansion is with a connector. But that would become your problem to solve. I think what you needed here tonight is would we entertain the idea of turning the building depending on what the plans look like? And I think what you've heard tonight is, with the big caveat for depending on what the plans look like and depending what the alterations on the structure look like, we're not saying we wouldn't consider it.
Understand. I think that's what we were looking for.
That's-
We
that's
wanted
what-
to know
yeah,
if this
no,
was a
that's-
hard
yeah.
no, or if this was
Exactly.
something,
And
We're willing
you've
to
learned that it is
entertain.
not a hard no.
I think we have learned.
This is the plan that's in your package,
Uh,
and you can see to the left, this is stepped back, and there's the original structure.
uh,
It's the west elevation. And not that there is a back, but that's the south elevation. So that over there and these two components come forward. And then that's the garage side from the east. And while these are not by any stretch detailed plans, you can start to see where we're adding on to the back.
right, just making a U-shaped,
This here is the original building. And our goal is to save as much of that structure as possible. As you all know, it's in good shape.
Okay. So I think where we are after several consultations on this is, it's not a hard no. You know what our sensitivities are to the facade of the building. And you know that we're going to be sensitive that any addition be subservient, that we're following guidelines. But I think what you've learned tonight is it's not a hard no.
Okay. All right, so we have
And you've-
work
and
to do.
And you've heard some appreciation from the board for the willingness to work very hard to save this important structure, which we really appreciate.
Thank you. We have been conveying that to our client. and
Thank you.
It's all understood.
Okay?
Okay, we have a lot of work to do.
You do.
Thank you for your time.
thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is a series of written approvals, and I think I'm gonna turn this over to Alice to go through them.
Sure. The first is Searsucker 3 LLC, 99 South Main Street. It's for the demolition of an existing house, pool house, and construction of a new house. The board mostly found that the design was appropriate after the initial review, but found the large second-story deck inappropriate for the location, which the applicant addressed by removing access to it, and then the board found the design and materials to be appropriate.
I move that we accept the written decision for 99 South Main Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next one is 92CNL LLC at 92 Cooper's Neck Lane. It's the construction of 3 accessory structures, which was the modification of a prior approval for a certificate of appropriateness. Last year, the board approved the construction of 4 accessory structures, which were now changed to be 2 pool houses and a garden building with different materials clad in red cedar shingle with wood windows on the pool houses and gray painted steel and windows on the garden building, which the board found to be appropriate.
Everyone had time to review?
Yes.
Okay. So I move we accept the written decision for 92 Cooper's Neck Lane. Do I have a second?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
The next one is 92 Post Crossing. This also was before us previously to modify an existing barn in place and kind and like kind, and now they need, after finding out that the barn was greatly deteriorated beyond what they previously thought, that it need to be reconstructed, so the board has now agreed to the reconstruction of the existing barn in place and like kind.
And the board has had time to review the decision?
Yes.
Okay, so I move that we accept the written decision for 92 Post Crossing. Do I have a second?
No, I'll go 3 for 3.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The last is the application of Lauren and Mimi Reiser at 70 Great Plains Road for the construction of the driveway gate, which the board found to be appropriate.
Everyone had a chance to review it?
Yep.
Okay. So I move we accept the decision as written. Do I have a second?
No, I'll go 4 for 4.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So next up on the agenda is, do I have to accept the adjournment for February 13th for Walnut Street Partners?
Oh, yeah. if we
Okay,
could
I
vote
move
on
we
that, that'd be
accept
great.
the applicant's request for an adjournment for Walnut Street Partners at 54 Wall Street until the February 13th meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we'll move over to public hearings historic. The first on our list is 80 North Main Street. Yeah, is the applicant here?
Excuse me, board, we do have Brian Brady on Zoom.
Great.
And we don't have updated materials for this one, right?
I have not seen updated materials.
Okay, hi everyone.
Hey, Brian.
Brian, you're in the sky. Hello, Brian. There he is.
You can see me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, at our last meeting, the major reservations about the design that I was proposing was a bay window on the side, which we have agreed to remove. And also there was discussion about the shutters on the house, what they would be, whether we should have them or not. And then we found this picture of the house from the turn of the century in one of the CEQA reports. And you can see it does not have any shutters, and it has the 4 windows where we were putting the bay window. And I kind of just fell in love with the simplicity of this, and it's, basically getting back to that old farmhouse instead of anything more than that. So that's what we're proposing to do at this point, is just to keep it really simple. So you can see in our elevations we are basically taking the existing house as it is, cleaning up the side porch here, and removing all the shutters. We're doing the same on the back, just cleaning up this porch, getting rid of this access to the second-story deck, and keeping it simple, keeping the historic windows that are there, and refurbishing them. The same on this side. This is where we're adding just a simple entrance, just for some cover for the 80 North Main entrance. Cleaning up this porch, again, no shutters. And then this is where we removed the bay window and keeping it just looking like that picture that we found, which was, turn of the century. The pool house, there was some, it was designed when we were doing a front porch, which had columns and everything else, so we just made it very, very simple. Keeping the same window pattern that's on the existing house and just a simple gable in front. And that's where we are.
Brian, when did you submit these plans?
Last Thursday morning at 8 a.m.
Okay. All right. Because they weren't, none of the board members have them, but,
That's, I emailed twice, and I actually spoke to Derek today, and to make sure that everybody had them.
Well-
Were the hard copies delivered to the office?
No, when I emailed them, I said, do I need to have hard copies delivered, or can they just be digital? And I didn't get a response, that's why I kept reaching out.
okay.
We
I'm
always
sorry, I
require
didn't
hard
realize that,
copies.
Ian.
What?
We always require hard copies. That's how they get distributed.
I apologize. Liz Vale is actually the applicant for this, and she is on vacation. So I kind of stepped in, and I guess I didn't do a very good job of it.
All right. Do me a favor and stroll back up to the top again and take us quickly through it. Let's do a couple things.
Okay.
Other than the pool house, the changes are fairly minor, and the pool house changes aren't bad. Walk us through, and I think what we're going to do to be expedient here is just ask board for comments. We'll have to adjourn it tonight because we will need written materials. But let's see if we can give you some feedback, just to move this forward, because the changes are minor.
Okay, so here's
Anyone?
the picture that we're going from. Here
Yep.
you can see, this is where I was proposing the bay window.
Yep.
And we're putting back the 4 original windows there. And then going through the elevations, this is the house as it is existing, or this is it here. We are cleaning up this side porch and removing the shutters.
So basically, that matches the drawings you filed on January 4th. The difference is you've taken the shutters off.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
thank you.
This matches the drawings that I filed before. We took the shutters off.
Okay,
This matches the drawings from before. I took the shutters off. And this, I removed the bay window and
Right.
took the shutters off.
and the pool house?
The pool house, we had pilasters going down. I had a diamond window
Yep.
here, and we had more traditional light patterns.
Okay,
And I simplified it to make it look more like the house.
great. All right, we are going to require, we will need written copies, but because this is minor and to move this forward, ask the board if they have any specific comments that we would give you tonight.
Yeah, and I believe it was this house. Wasn't there a question about the attic windows being saved, or it's the same pattern of?
Was,
That's it right there.
That's-
We are
okay.
restoring it.
Yeah.
All right, good.
yes, it was.
That was my only question, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
No objections. How can you object to maintaining historic simplicity?
Agreed.
great. I think the changes, the pool house are great. I think simplifying the house is great. So we'll just, I guess you're asking for an adjournment. We'll adjourn it to the next meeting. But as far as feedback goes, I think the changes of the pool house in particular were really strong against the house.
That's great. That's
Okay.
great. So I will deliver hard copies tomorrow to
Okay?
the office.
Alrighty, so I'm going to move we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to the next meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the History Museum, who is asked to adjourn until February 13th. So I'm going to move we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to February 13th for the Southampton History Museum at 17 Meeting House Lane. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
And we're gonna reach out shortly about coordinating a site visit, for that application.
great, thank you, Alex. Okay, so next up, under new matters, is 25 Willow Street, but that, I believe, has, the applicant's asked it to be postponed until February 13th for renoticing. Do we need to, we haven't taken a
Jurisdiction.
jurisdiction, okay? So next up is 218 Pond Lane. Are the affidavits in order?
Yes.
Okay, 218 Pond Lane.
Thank you. And John Bennett and Steve Sewell from James Merrill Architects. I think Elena might be on Zoom with us, but, okay. Just very quickly before Steve comes up. We're at 218 Pond Lane, and just let me give everybody, in terms of where we are from a spatial point of view, I just have an area for everybody, and I think it's rather telling because what you see is the house is marked by Pond Lane and 200 Pond Lane. And then sort of an island there in itself, covered by from around the area. It's very difficult at best to see into the property. So I think that's important from a context point of view. So the existing house is largely non-visible from the public vantage, as you can tell by the subject property. And I'm going to ask Steve to walk you through the proposed alterations, which are relatively minor, all of which are first floor and porch additions. Maybe in terms of the lack of any sort of gravity of these additions, there's a wonderful, of all things, pyramid sketch, which has the, volumetrically, the existing house shown on all different sides, and the proposed additions. But I'll ask Steve to walk you through.
No,
Elena,
Steve-
can you pull up the
Steve,
presentation?
Can you introduce yourself for us, please?
Hi, I'm Steve Soul from James Merrill Architects, and Elena from our office will be presenting or pulling up the images.
Hello, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Yes, we can see.
Maybe we can.
Oh, I guess we
We
can.
see something.
Can you pull up the presentation, though? We're looking at the folder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't get a text now.
Is this, can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, Elena, can we start with the pyramid diagram, the section diagrams?
Sure.
Or actually, elevation diagrams, for that matter.
The pyramid,
I think they might be the last slide. Yes. So these are the different elevations of the building. And in gray is the existing house. And then the blue dashed lines denote where we're changing the house. So you can see the scope of the additions and the renovations in the context of the elevation of the existing. And so the upper image is the west elevation, the middle one is the north elevation, and the third one, the bottom one, is the south elevation. And we aren't doing any renovations or additions to the east side of the house, which is the elevation that faces the pond. Elena, if you want to go back to the beginning and we can go through the images. So just to give you some context, if you can start with the first existing photo. So this is the pond side of the house. This is the east elevation. We're not doing any alterations to this side of the house. Can you go next? This is the south elevation.
oh, sorry.
It's okay. This is the south elevation. The only part you're going to see is a little bit to the left part of that porch. We're altering, but the rest of the elevation is untouched on this side.
Are you talking about the enclosed part at the far left-hand side?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We're actually removing a piece there, so you can walk underneath the porch. Can you go to the next slide, Elena? So this is the west side of the house. This is where we're doing the primary, where most of the work is happening on the west elevation. It's important to note that all of these existing first floor structure was actually an addition / renovation to the house in the 1980s. So this actually isn't part of the original structure. So most of the stuff that we're altering is alterations to a 1980s addition to the house. Elena, if you can go to the next slide. So this is the north west side of the house. This is where most of the addition is going to happen, where this garden sits in the property currently. You go next. And then this is the north side. This wall, actually where the current kitchen is, so we're basically extending this part of the house out to create a more gracious kitchen and family space. Go to the next slide. And this is the north side of the house as well, the original porte cochere. The original entry for the house was actually through this porte cochere, and then you'd enter from the water side of the house. Go to the next slide, please, Lena. So these are the floor plans. This is the existing floor plan of the house.
Because we don't have purview over the interior, you can skip the interior.
that?
You can skip the floor plans.
Oh,
and
skip the
just-
floor
Just
plan.
take
Okay.
us to the exteriors, please.
Okay, we'll just skip the floor plans, Lena. So the upper image is the existing west elevation, and then the lower image is the proposed west elevation. You can see we're trying to use the existing language of the house, so it's got this really interesting porch language, which we're emulating to create a new entry, and then also just to extend the kitchen to the north. Go to the next slide, Elena. So the upper image is the south elevation existing, and the lower image is the south elevation proposed. So minor adjustments on this elevation, really just to the west side of the house. We're extending out that porch to create a formal entry to the house. As I mentioned before, the original entry was actually on the water side of the house, so this really feels like the back of the house, but it's where the driveway currently comes in, so it feels, we're trying to create a more formal front to this elevation. Can you go to the next slide, Elena? So this is the, again, top image is the north elevation existing. Bottom is the north elevation proposed. Looks pretty similar in elevation. The main difference is that the addition is really coming out another couple bays towards us.
How many feet?
It's roughly 18 feet. Can you go to the next slide, Elena? And then these are the renderings of the proposed. So this is the southeast side of the house. We're not doing any adjustments to this elevation.
So that entire porch structure was added in the 80s? Is the...
No, the original porch facing the water, the porch facing the water was part of the original structure. There was an addition / renovation to the west side of the house,
Okay.
where they basically renovated the kitchen and added some porches.
Okay.
And then we're basically just expanding on that. So to the left side of this image is the entry porch that we're adding to the house. And then everything to the right of that is original structure. Elena, you can go to the next image. So this is the new entry to the house. So this is the west elevation. So we're creating this entry porch, a new entry door, and then on the left side is where the kitchen is extending out to the north. We're using the existing language of the house, the existing porch language. We're matching all the existing materials, so painted trim, weathered red cedar shingles, bluestone terracing, and then cedar, painted cedar decking, which is all the existing palette of the original house.
So on the left side of that rendering, what looks like enclosed porch, that will now be interior and the kitchen will push into that, or is that a protected porch that still wraps the house, or where's the kitchen extension?
The kitchen is in these 3 bays here. And then this is a porch that's in front of the volume of the house. There's
So the
4
enclo-
bays that is a porch, and
Yeah.
there's 3 bays.
And the two enclosed bays I see on the left, does that become interior space, or is that an enclosed?
Yes, this is interior space.
It's currently interior.
It's currently interior space.
What's that?
Is it currently interior space?
No, the existing footprint of the house goes to here, so this is addition.
Okay.
So is one of your questions, Mark, that it looks almost like it looks like it's a glass solarium by the rendering?
Yeah.
There's gonna be a kitchen. Is that gonna be all windowed like that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, actually, I mean, the kitchen is really, the kitchen and all the solid walls are in this portion.
Right, so the functional part of the kitchen is there.
And then there's a family room, which is
Gotcha.
which is part of a larger kitchen space.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I can't see that,
And,
Okay.
okay. All right.
Steve, I think it's extremely helpful for the board. You showed me the 1980 plans.
Sure.
If you could just put those, just show the board.
Yeah, we can pull this up.
Just so, because I was very relieved to see that most of the work on the house is being done in an area.
Oh, sorry, John, you have to,
Most of the area in the house is, most of the work in the house is being done in an area that was reconstructed in
Gotcha.
1980.
Sure.
And we could submit those building plans, or if you want.
No,
We can pull them up, right?
Oh,
Elena can pull them
Yeah.
up.
oh, fantastic.
Elena, if you can pull up the historic plans,
And they're Marshall Coogan on the house.
and then go to the elevations.
The plans for the elevations?
No,
The
plans-
elevations.
Construction.
I think there's 2 elevations that are pretty telling. So, yeah, I think it's this elevation and the next one. So this was actually the elevation before the 1980s work. So that last rendering is the same view as this. So this structure in the middle was actually the old kitchen. And then, Elena, if you go to the next slide, I think to the left,
Yeah, you can see.
Yeah,
the
so
massive
this-
change.
this was all an addition done in the 80s. So, and then what we're doing is we're extending this out a bit and then pulling this porch out. But we're not really, we're making edits to what was already in addition to the
I guess
original structure.
a question, when that addition was done in the 80s, those 4 bays that I'm looking at, were they originally open porch and they closed them and took them to interior space of what was once exterior space?
No, so if we go back to the previous slide again,
So that's, okay.
so the mass of the house went all the way to the ground. There's
You
no
have to speak
porches
to
on
the
side.
into the microphone.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
I know, it's,
So there were no porches on this side of the house. The porches
Okay.
were all on the water side of the house.
Okay.
This was really the back of the house because the water side was the entry. It was the formal front.
But the addition was always enclosed space. It mimics the design of the front porch, but it was an enclosed space with windows.
Yes, the 80s edition was an enclosed space.
Yeah, but if John, if any part of the house has been touched, it's been
The
where
west-
we're doing the work.
The west side,
Yeah,
yep, west side.
I think that's very important, yeah.
okay.
I think
Should I go back to our renderings?
Yeah, I think there might be a couple other slides there to run through.
Steve, do you know when the house was originally constructed?
The original house was 1890s.
That's what the blue sheet says, 1890. Circa, it says circa 1890.
And then is there a couple more slides in this as well?
Mm-hmm.
So just to, confirm, the only changes here are happening to the west elevation, which is what was changed in the 80s,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
And then this elevation is the north side of the house. So again, everything to the right side of this image is the stuff that we're adding.
So where is the, I'm sorry, you should finish before we start asking questions, I'm sorry.
I think there's only a couple more images. Elena, if you want to pull up cycle through the rest of the images. So there's some sections. I don't know if you guys want to see these or. So to the left is the existing section, and then the proposed section where we're basically just pulling up the front porch to create that entry. And then the next slide, Elena. And then this is the section going to the north, so we're extending that out 2 bays to make the kitchen larger. If you want to go to the next slide.
Can you go back one?
Can you go back
Can
a
you go
little?
back one slide? Okay, so the red shaded roof, that's the addition, that's an addition that was done in the 80s, and you're just taking that addition and moving it further out?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The survey helps.
Yeah, you can see to the left that red part is the existing roof line, right?
Yeah. But it was.
Yeah, so the existing
not an
section on the
original.
left, and then the red,
Yeah.
the red piece is overlaid over our new section.
And the roof over this extension will be flat?
It's gonna be a low slope metal roof,
Okay. Hmm.
probably a flat
Okay.
seam copper roof. If you wanna go to the next slide, Elena. And then these are just about the exterior detailing. So we're just matching the existing detailing of the house. So we've done a study of the existing porch structures and the rafter tail details, that sort of thing.
So the open rafters will be maintained, it's the, okay.
Yep, we just match all of that detail, all the materiality for the house. If you want to go to the next slide, Elena. And then, yeah, same notes for this slide. Go to the next one. Next slide. This might be the last
This is our last slide.
one. Okay.
And, on this slide, that the door there is the door you're changing, correct?
This last slide is,
Or,
no, so the entry door is actually to the right. This is actually the middle bay in the new porch that we're adding.
got it, okay.
But this image is just to show that the existing porch language, which is the right image,
right. Okay.
is gonna be the same as what
Got it.
we're proposing.
Okay. Thank you. Board members?
I'm a little confused where the front door is going. I think I know where it's going, but right now, there's no walkway. You'd be adding a walkway to
Yes.
where the front door is?
Yeah, we will be,
Because the
yes.
front door is not gonna be adjacent to the driveway.
we're gonna be redoing the landscape at some point, yes. Currently, there isn't a front door to the house.
That was my question. Where is the current, how does someone, what's the formal entrance at this point?
Well, you pulled into the portico share.
Yeah, if we go to the
Originally, you
plan-
pulled in the portico share and walked down the front, and the door
Yes.
actually
So-
faced the lake, right?
So it's still the front, that door?
Yeah, also, it may be helpful, the owner also controls 200 Pond Lane.
Doesn't really matter to me.
Okay.
Okay.
So there'll be some,
That-
synergy between them.
Actually, can you go to the current plan, or the existing plan, Elena? The slide before this? So the original entry was that you came in through the porte cochere, and then you walked
Totally
up
get
into
that.
the court, up onto the porch, and then you entered the parlor centered.
Right.
On the
across the-
pond side
elevation.
of the house.
Across from the fireplace.
So there's really no front entry to the house. There's a mudroom entry in the lower, left-hand corner, which they use as basically the front door now. And then there's a back entry, which goes into the kitchen, which is really on the front of the house currently.
So, so the current door used to enter the house is primarily the mudroom door on the side of the house?
Correct.
Right, because the front door is actually on the pond-facing side of the house.
Yep.
Which is not the most convenient look. I mean, I understand why they designed it that way. Okay, so what you're actually doing is changing the face of the house with a new entrance.
Mhm.
And that's the historic part of the house, correct?
No, No, the west side, the east,
I'm just trying to distinguish between the original historic core of the house and the changes you're making. So the door has no impact on the existing core structure of the house. It's part of the addition that was made in the 80s.
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Again, there's no change in the structure as it presents from Ag 1. There's a house here, and this is very wooded.
No, that's, the
I mean, you know,
site has no,
outside,
that's not
We
really
know the
my,
house is, yeah.
my question. I'm just trying to determine where the new door's going, that's all.
All right. From my perspective, here's what I'd like to do, because I made multiple trips, but I couldn't get through the gate to actually get in and see the property. So I've asked Alex to work with you guys to set up a site visit.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do is adjourn this to where we can set up a date, to where we can actually come and walk the property, because there's a bunch of other accessory structures in this property than photographs, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so just to get a feel for it and totally understand it. I would say on the face of it, I don't have a lot of big comment right now, but I would like to be able to walk the property. And also, we were going, and then there was are we going to repost this?
They did get the sign back up today, so
But it
we're
wasn't
fine,
up-
we're
but it
fine
was not
on
up Thursday,
noticing,
Friday,
but
Saturday, Sunday.
we did decide that we were gonna keep this open to the next hearing regardless,
Okay,
just for additional time on it.
Actually,
Okay.
when I drove by there last week, the sign was there.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Yeah, yeah,
noticed.
yeah.
No, there was a sign there
next time
10
we got to
days
buy you
ago.
some plywood.
The sign was fine.
Yeah. It was to the right of the driveway. Yeah.
You didn't,
All right.
you didn't put your wellies on and walk the girl on it?
No, I went up to the gate. Sorry to go on, but anyway, I'd asked if they could set up a date, so. So, do we have any comments from the public? Okay, so I'm going to move we adjourn this to the February 13th, and do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And we will, John, we'll work with Alex to set up a date where we can come and do a walkthrough, yeah.
Steve, I don't think you need to be there. I mean, you can if you want to.
I would prefer Steve to be there.
Okay,
Yeah,
even better.
because we may have, because I think we're going to have a lot of questions about historic core versus 80s addition versus plan versus roof versus, pardon?
February 13th?
Believe the next meeting is February 13th?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're not on Valentine's Day this year.
yeah, exactly. Last year, we all had unhappy spouses. Because that meeting went to like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That was the, I remember that one.
It's like, why are we here so late on Valentine's Day? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will look forward to the walkthrough, thank you. All right, so next up, we have Gin Lane LLC at 2 Gin Lane, or is the applicant here? Great.
We have affidavits and they're in order
yeah.
on this one.
I even wrote a note.
These ones are perfect.
Oh,
All good.
this one confuses me because we had conferences.
Good evening,
All right.
everybody. I'm Brian Sawyer with Sawyer Burston Architects in New York, and I'm here with Eric Foister and Jeanette Vega Flores from my office here. And we are representing our client for the restoration of 2 Gin Lane. And just briefly, this was presented in the work session to you on November 28th. Would you like me to go through the presentation or just the items that have changed or were?
Since it's been, could you briefly go through just highlight the presentation for the
Well,
public?
I will do my best.
I think it might be an Alice, you came before us on a pre-submission, correct?
That's right.
It was a work session.
Right, that was a work session, so I think.
I remember.
So I think, and Alice, I defer to you, that they should take us through the plans for the public?
Yes,
Right.
looks like they're in the process of doing that.
Okay.
There we go.
So assume this is your first visit.
All right, very well, very well. The project is a renovation of existing house built around 1880 at number 2 Gin Lane. It's previously renovated in 2006. And also during that renovation, a large conservatory added to the west flank of the house. It sits on about 1.3 acres, 58,000 square feet on the corner of Meadow and Gin. And neighbor is across the street from the Meadow Club of Southampton. I'm sure you're probably familiar with the site. Our client is looking to do a significant restoration of the house and preserving what survives of the early house, and while we also want to reverse many of the alterations that had diminished its original design. Again, it was completed in around 1880, 2.5-story shingle style, sort of Queen Anne structure, the gambrel roof punctuated by shed roof dormers. It was known, or is known, as goldenrod, which distinguishes it from its twin at 1 Gin Lane, which is known as Wiley Ho, or Weil Ho, I might have mispronounced that, built around 12 years after that. They both have symmetrical cruciform plans and are situated on corner lots directly across from each other. Major details include the double-hung windows and wraparound porches, the 2.5-story flat roof tower engaged at the intersection of the two gabled wings, and also a building survey, a structure inventory form with photographs from 1977 documents these features, as well as a pediment on the south side of a house where a driveway used to be. The Sanborn maps show a history of changing lot size and possible relocation and reorientation of the house on the lot. So I want to bring these maps to your attention because part of our request is to move the house toward the west for 8 feet.
Brian, I apologize for the interruption, but can you just go back to that historic picture?
Yes, move back one slide.
Right, and that driveway there is...
Seaward of the house. This photograph shows it to the south of the house, which it no longer sits.
Okay.
There's an abandoned gate you can notice on Meadow, just as it turns to the stop sign. And that was where this entrance was.
On the southwest side?
Yeah, precisely.
Gotcha.
And that pediment type structure was what we assumed was the front entry at that time.
Okay.
In 1977 at least.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
There was the property at some point was subdivided, and the house appears to have moved a couple of times. It was decided to reorient the house with a view from the porch. The house was originally placed toward the middle of an open field with a large porch overlooking the lawn, which we'd seen in an 1894 map. The 1902 Sanborn shows the house located to the westerly property adjacent to Meadow Lane. The house was then moved to the easterly property line and rotated 180 degrees as depicted in the 1916 and 1926 Sanborn map. And these are the maps that show the house in its current location. Those two up there are at the moment. So our proposed work is primarily is the relocation of the house, approximately 8 feet to the west along its axis, with a new foundation, which includes piles and concrete grade beams, but the foundation clad as it is now with its original historic brick. Another major part is the removal of the non-historic conservatory and to restore the wraparound porch on the west side. So you see that structure here, which we're proposing to remove, largely glass and wood. And then we also would like to replace the non-historic windows instead of the mostly 1/1s or two. I think they're mostly 1/1s at this point.
4/1.
4/1, pardon me. Restore them back to their original multi-pane over single sash windows. Most of them 16/1. Some of them more than that. More in the style aligning with the Queen Anne style that we see in these historic examples here. We'd also propose adding a triangular pediment incorporated in the north facade to identify the main entry of the house, which is also we figure where we propose that as a traditional feature in consistency with other Queen Anne style entry sequences such as you see here with a pediment located on the porch. The dormers, which were in their current situation, we are proposing to widen them ever so slightly. In our last presentation, it was a work session, not technically a presentation. We had shown the width of the dormer at a dimension that was remarked upon as too much. We have pulled the dimension, the width of the overall dormer, in as tight as we can to keep the remaining opening in the sash, the rough opening of the window, identical to the one that's there, but allow us enough room to add impact-resistant structure and weight and chain windows into those dormers. So just enough room to get them in and maintain the eave and rake of the dormer. No change to that, but a slight addition to the width of the dormers themselves. We also propose new open railings to replace the non-historic knee walls at the main porch and upper level balconies. This is also seen at 1 Gin and from a previous photo from 1993, which you see here on the screen, and also by precedent images provided by the our historic preservation consultant, Zach Studenroth. You can see those. And this is, we also are proposing to remove a non-historic garage at the front of the house close to Gin Lane and construct a new garage and a storage shed at the rear, at the rear of the house toward the south. And as I mentioned, there's also a non-historic greenhouse attached to the rear, which we're also proposing to remove. On the slide 6, I think we're showing our proposed upgrade of the sanitary system. And then in 7, this is the sanitary, that's the sanitary sheet. So on 7, this is, it shows the existing house sitting on a foundation of brick pile with a crawl space of approximately 3 feet. It also shows the existing floor elevation of 9 feet 3 inches above sea level and approximately 2.5 feet above grade. The existing gross floor area is 6,234 feet. Our proposed foundation will consist of breakaway walls. It'll be clad in salvage brick from the house currently and maintain a crawl space of about 3 feet. And we are raising the grade ever so slightly around the house, and the new elevation, or the house will sit at 1'9" above the newly proposed grade, which is 7.5 feet above sea level. The house will be smaller. It will be reduced to 5,617 square feet. In 10, we're going to go on to 10. These are the floor plates here, which I think we can go over. I want to go back. I want to make clear the site plan shift. Can we go back to that? So as I was describing early in the presentation, the major component or the major request is to move the house, as you can see, 8 feet toward the west. And this is, our logic behind this is the house has been moved a couple of times. It will never be completely compliant. It will be more compliant as a result, which I'll explain in more detail. But it gets the house more centrally located within its current lot, not its original lot, which is long gone, which extended far to the east of this. Let's go to 18 or 17. There's the elevations existing and proposed with the removal of the conservatory. Here you see the west side with the restoration of the wraparound porch on the west after the proposed removal of the conservatory. And here are two-dimensional renderings of that. This is the north side of the house. This also shows our proposed pediment, which I described earlier, over the front door to signify that entry point, which now there's nothing there, and we would like to have something there to give it a little bit of significance, more than it has now. There is the ocean facing, or the ocean side of the house at the lower drawing, which is the south. This diagram, there's a lot of information on it, but it shows the lot east to west, north and south, and showing the pyramid conditions and setbacks. And again, the house is non-compliant now. It is still not in complete compliance, but more so. And you can see the 8-foot shift we're proposing in this diagram. In 21, do you want to slide ahead to that? There's two, let's go back to the site plan, because I think I want to remind everybody where these are. As I mentioned earlier, there is an existing garage quite close to Gin Lane, which you probably have all seen in driving by this house many times, which is Eric, you want to point that out? This structure here, in the upper center of the drawing, that is, we would like to remove that.
And do we know when that structure was put in?
Do we know? Do they have any idea?
Sometime in the 60s.
This is as close as we know right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically large enough to hold a single car. It's mostly used for, I believe, garden equipment. There's a small greenhouse at the back side, not technically attached, but there as an independent structure. And also the existing pool. And we are, let's go on to our proposed site plan, which shows what we would like to add, which is a storage structure along with a new swimming pool toward the south, a garage then between these two, behind the house, and our driveway would be extended along the eastern property line to access those. Those are the main components of the proposal. I should also note that we have requested and received support from all adjacent neighbors, and I have a letter I can read if you'd like. No?
No, it's in the file.
And with that, open to any questions I can
Okay,
help.
thank you. Board members?
I'm happy to start.
Go ahead.
Okay, generally, it looks all positive. I think, though, I'd like to do what Mark suggested on the last,
And do another site visit?
and do a site
Now that
visit.
we have
'cause
real plans.
there's so much going on, and so much of it seems to be good, but there was also a lot of visuals moving back and forth, and I think a site visit for me would help put that into true perspective.
Okay.
And you're not moving the driveway, you're keeping
Okay,
the driveway
okay.
where it is?
We are actually moving the front gate slightly, so that it looks into the house instead of into the weird corner in the garage. Right now, you have the gate, which gives you a view of this clunky little garage at the moment. So we're making a little more traditional approach to the house from the north, which is, so the gate is moving. And then we're extending a driveway down along, manipulating it slightly to get to our new garage here, which you see on the eastern side of the property.
So what kind of landscaping is there now on the eastern side?
It's, there's a hedge and a path, there's some planting in there. It's so tight, the house is so tight to the edge, it's not much is doing too much. And we are proposing, especially with the Grunwald's property next door, as much screening as we can, in addition to a hedge along the property line, but screening along the perimeter of the driveway and near the house to buffer that.
And any proposed parking in the back?
Nothing more than you see here. there is around the garage. So we have parking, the majority of the parking will be in the front entry court. And then, as you see around the driveway, there's enough room for probably 2 or 3 cars in addition to what you can get in the garage.
And that entry court is softened by all the landscaping that you're showing here.
Yes, the idea is that it's more of a garden court entry, so with trees and shrubs within the gravel surface and something of a much softer approach to the.
It's a great improvement from how it currently looks, especially the removal of that greenhouse solarium-ish thing. My only question is, the site visit I think will be really helpful. In moving the house, does that require you to raise the house to the new FEMA, regulations?
No, it does not, and we reviewed that with Tiana at the building department, and that was one of our first questions, if we'd be compelled to bring it to FEMA standards. One thing which we would like to ask is actually a waiver for the HERS requirements in a similar respect, and that is the energy requirements that would really affect the historic nature of the house, adding solar panels and things of that sort. But moving it does not, in this case, does not require us to comply with the FEMA standards, which would put the house.
Sounds so strange.
Yeah, I don't understand why, but okay.
Right. My understanding is that on historic houses, the HERS requirements are routinely waived, but I could be wrong. Maybe Alice knows.
I would like to have
Yeah, you have the
definite
ability in the
confirmation
code to
on
do
that.
it.
Yeah.
Because if the house is moved and suddenly has to be raised 4 feet off the ground, that's a problem.
Well, yeah, 2 separate issues. So
Right.
FEMA
Yeah.
compliance, that's something that Tim needs to determine. Obviously, he has, but we can certainly
Right.
ask him about that determination. The HERS waiver is something that is within your purview to do, if you think that what they would need to do to comply with their HERS
Right.
rating would detract from the design of the house.
Gotcha. And there's landscaping here. Is that as part of the submission?
Yes, it is. In fact, a planting plan as well. But there's a lot of detail here. We might not have included the entire set.
Right.
No, I have it here, I just opened it up.
Oh, there we go. Oh, yes, there you go.
Okay.
We-
And that's in the file as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We went to forecourt, actually, there's a house we did on Christopher and Little Plains, which is a colonial revival, which has a crushed oyster, gravel, and forecourt with trees. That's a little bit of the idea, or the kernel of the idea, where we want to create more of a garden on the front of that house. So
Okay.
there's a nicer transition.
The point being that will be an integral part of the approval.
Yes,
Yes.
we consider that very much part of our design and submitted it for your review as such.
I have a couple questions. What's your current setback on the east property line? No, where the side of the house goes against the east property line there?
The existing?
Yeah, the existing. Because what I'm trying to figure out is, are you moving the house 8 feet to accommodate being able to put that driveway to the left? Is that why we're moving it?
Yeah, it allows us to get behind the house and get rid of that garage.
Okay,
Yeah.
just trying to understand. Okay. The two things that, and I think a walkthrough would be great.
Mm-hmm.
The two things that I'm still questioning is I'm not sure I'm in love with the pediment over the front door because it's not original. And I think you're messing with the original material in the front of that house. So I'm not sure I'm in 100% support of that pediment. And number two is what are the rules of historic preservation is keep the existing openings. Why are we making a dormer bigger?
We want to introduce, it's a very weak condition. Those dormers are the soft spot. Insofar as when we restore the house, we're going to we'll be doing a significant overhaul of its structure. And in doing that, we would like to, and also introduce weight and chain windows, which if there ever were sun, they're long gone. So there's a pocket required and extra framing to accommodate that. And we felt it would be better to keep the existing window opening and just move out the dormer underneath the current rake of the dormer, move out the width of the dormer.
Because last time you came in, those dormers are getting wider. How much
They
wider?
they were wider.
How
So
much wider are they getting?
We pulled them, they're, in inches, what was the last?
We proposed 12 inches at the last work session, and
6 and
we're
6?
halving it now, so 6 inches.
So you're asking to become 6 inches wider.
So enough for the weight and chain and probably insulation for the sidewalls as well.
Yeah, and there's a corner frame that needs to go, or
go back in as
Okay.
well. with
Just to be clear, it's 6 inches in total, not 6 inches on
Is
either
it six?
side.
Pardon me?
Each
6
side,
and
so it's
6.
12
So
inches.
it's a foot
It's
wider.
a foot.
Net 12, yes.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion. So
what-
it was 12 and 12 now.
Now we're starting to get bigger, so, when we're looking at it on site, that's one of the things I'd like to look at. Because,
Yeah,
I mean,
and
that's substantially changing a window that's been there since when?
So we could, and again, we've not
Because you
dissected
could rebuild
those
it back,
corners.
you could rebuild it back to its original size.
Yes, we would, I mean, to do it identically, I just have to, we'd have to restudy that structure and whether or not those get pockets for weights and
Right.
so forth. So there, I'm certain there's another way to accomplish this.
Okay.
But that was our initial pass with both structure and the type of window we would like to use.
And it's just those two windows? Or
There
two on
are
both
a
sides?
total, the dormers are,
There's 3 other sheds on the west side, and then there's 2 more on the north.
And you're proposing all the sheds get wider.
Right, but I will show you a live video or photo of one gin lane,
Hmm?
similar cruciform layout and builder, and their dormers are actually a little closer to what we're proposing. You could just
Well,
see from
that may be, but that may be, but just the thing I want to look at in this house is that we're starting to materially change the visual of the house by making all of the windows suddenly get a foot wider. That contemporizes to me a little of the original intent of the historic part of the house, because you're going to the historic roof structure in order to do that, right? In order
Not
to make
quite
those dormers
following.
wider, you're going to have to be altering the historic roof structure of that house, right?
not really. The framing of the roof remains the same. It's the outside frame of the
But the
dormer.
framing of the existing dormers gets
Yes,
changed.
on
And
top
where
of
they
the
go,
roof
and where they go
framing.
into the roof line gets wider.
Yes, but on top of those rafters. So the way that, but just as a reminder, and I'm sure, I think we're all saying the same thing, the windows do not change the size of the
No,
window.
but the actual physical
Yes, we would like
dormers
to.
get wider.
And as per your other comment, we could, we would study it various ways if that's a,
Yeah.
if
Just
that
out
you
of
find us.
curiosity, so you just showed the existing dormer in the photograph. Do you have the rendering of that same dormer?
Oh, the existing dormer?
No, of how it would look.
In the same context, it's like
So I guess that's
compare
it.
and contrast.
Okay. And now go back to the
The existing-
photograph.
So there's, well, we'll have to look at it, but to me that, it's one thing,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
they're
'cause
narrower.
I think Mark's point is well taken. These current dormers, in fact, they're hardly dormers. They're diminutive in the world of dormers. And what you're putting on or proposing to put on is more like a contemporary dormer. So I see the point you're making, Mark.
Yeah, when you're there, take a look. I mean,
Yeah.
and not that it would
Okay.
any reason to do anything differently, but it is interesting to see at One Gin how those were built, and this one, but and the overhang of the eave and the rake,
Yeah.
and we would, depending on your decision or guidance, we would figure out how to make that.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're quirky by modern standards, but they're historic
But sometimes
by
quirky is
their
what makes it
nature. Yeah,
interesting.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some other elements like that on the house.
Yeah,
And the house
There's
is in a
a-
prominent position, or a location, so.
Yeah.
yeah,
Some of the eaves hop up over
yep.
certain of the lower dormers. You see, there's one there. And on the lower
Yeah.
level, there's a lot of interesting idiosyncrasies about this house. That
Yeah, it's one of the things that makes it so great. Idiosyncrasies make old houses. Great. Thank you. Okay, do I have any comments from the public? So you're asking for,
we're
you're asking
excited
for
for you to
adjournment?
visit the house and let
Yes.
us know how we can.
So you're requesting an adjournment?
Yes.
Great. So I move we accept the applicant's request for adjournment to February 13th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And we'll work with Alex to figure out what we can come
Fantastic.
together
Thank you
and
all
look at the
very
house
much.
again.
Thanks for your time and
Thank you.
consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you for the amount of detail. It's very helpful.
Yeah. It's gonna be a great house, either way.
thing where I file my own, which I have. What's next on the agenda?
Oh, let's see, here we go.
Next up is,
The
okay.
Village of Southampton.
So the next
adjournment.
thing on the agenda was 46 John Street, but I believe we'd made a decision on that last week, correct?
We did. That was
Great.
approved.
Okay. So moving on, next up is 30 Bellows at 30 Bellows Lane.
Well, let
Is-
me ask you this. There was 292 Ox Pasture
That's correct.
is actually it's listed on the agenda as non-historic, but it's actually in historic
historic
property.
district.
That's correct.
Which is correct.
Yeah.
Um,
So do you want to hear that? I guess we should hear it now.
Should we keep it with historic?
I would prefer that.
Okay.
Yes. Sounds
So
good.
then we're going to make that alteration. The next up is 292 Ox Pasture Road if the applicant is here.
And by the way, Alice, this had come to us before, and you had, there's a written decision in the file on this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. Well, we have affidavits and they're in order.
Do we have affidavits and are they in order?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do. Oh, and now I have the originals. Thanks. They look the same.
Should I dive right in?
Dive away.
My name is John Bennett, Bennett and Reed. With me is Jorge Gomez, who's the project architect, and Monica Zasada, who's the owner's representative. So we have the affidavits of mailing and posting. So we're requesting a modification of an existing approval that was granted for, I would just, well, the architect isn't here. The original architect isn't here, so I can say what I want about it.
Let's not.
So it's a rather-
To be fair, let's not, but go ahead.
No, I'm going to, no, I'm not going to be, I'm just going to characterize it as what I would say a rather prosaic spec shingle style house. And we're talking about a more custom build and less formulaic home for a couple and a family, that this will be their sixth home on Ox Pasture. They've done a lot of work on Ox Pasture, been there for approximately 30 years. And so this is their latest project on Ox Pasture. They've lived in all of them. They lived and recently sold the old Lloyd Smith house.
So what are we looking at here today?
Well, let me get there. But I wanted to let you know that they're not newcomers to the site. Anyway, this property is located within the historic district, but this board's approval for demolition of the previously existing residence dated December 10th, 2018, specifically recognized, quote, the obscuration of the dwelling from the public right-of-way. So that was a factor, and it's important, I think. The previous approval included a landscape design by Aries Design, which will be implemented, and in fact, some of the plantings have already been planted and will be further augmented. There's also a significant change, particularly given what this board likes to see, is the elimination of a second-story deck. No second-story decks or balconies. Their prior approval had permitted a rather significant terrace called the Master Terrace, which was 18 by 19, 342 square feet on the east side of the residence. That's gone, so that's been removed. And while the ridge height of the modification is the same as the proposed house, as approved, the house, as I think will be demonstrated, is less vertical, has less massing and more varied heights. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Gomez to present.
Mr. Gomez, from my perspective, you're presenting this as almost a new house versus a modification, because it's so vastly different from what was approved the last time.
Yeah, in general scope, we are keeping the foundation, which has been poor.
Okay.
95 to 98% of the foundation. In general, the masses of the main gable and the crossing gables are actually the same. The difference is actually a much better and more appealing house that it's less in mass itself.
Right.
And there's no terraces or any of that kind, and it's a lot more conservative about privacy.
Right. So maybe out of sequence, let me just, for clarification, because a big issue with this house on this lot was the placement and the way the garage
It has a barbell shape.
What's that?
It has a barbell
as you can see on the
shape.
screen, it's a very challenging lot.
Okay, right.
Extremely.
Well, let's
The,
yeah.
no, but
yeah.
I just want to clarify that the footprint is exactly the same as that which was previously approved, or
Yes.
different?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
This
Yeah,
is
we're within the.
We'll get there. This one probably doesn't have 12-foot garage doors. Okay.
Yeah, no, we're
We were here
within,
for,
we're
we were
within
here
the
for a
setbacks.
long time with that house. Okay.
That's a lot of, I think that's a lot of.
All right.
garage is a big deal. Okay,
Please.
All right, but in general, we are keeping all the entire foundation, and then, as you can see in the presentation of the exterior elevations, that will be, excuse me, that will be considered the front of the house, even though this is a very challenging lot. That's what the front of the house is, which is facing north. In general, as far as the finishes, we have a lime wash brick, we have wood cedar, we have a clapboard painted. 95% of the windows are wood. They're painted, and then I have a few of steel woods on the lower section of the house and the pool house.
Jorge, if I may, just because I'm concerned that the board, that sometimes when you look at it and the rendering, it.
It looks white, but
It looks like a stucco-ish thing. That's washed brick. I just wanted to point that out.
correct. Yeah, it's a little bit
People
hard, you
said
know, computers.
Okay.
And, as you can see, it's a wash brick, and actually we have reclaimed oak
Yep.
as lintels and reclaimed oak as our pergolas. In general, this will be the rear. I do have the elevations. Excuse me. As a reference point, this what was approved before. Sorry, it's charging. Just as a contrast of what was approved and what we're doing, and you'll see the language is of the mass itself. It's the same, but
This is, you're about to make me very happy. Okay.
so that's what was approved.
No, normally people show us what was approved and then what's proposed.
Okay.
So they're two
Okay, my
different houses.
apologies. As you can
They're
see,
two
the front of the
different
house
houses,
has the two crossing gables. They go all the way to the 34-foot mark. Our proposed actually goes a lot lower than that, about 5 feet lower than that, so it's less massive. You can see all the railing. That was the second floor terrace that actually was going to be usable. I'm sure the neighbors are going to be
Can you
very
just
happy.
like hold on one shot, please, for just a,
Sorry, I'm looking. Okay.
You're nervous, that's all, take your time.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the approved.
I want to point out the significant difference in the massing of the garage area, which I'm glad to see that you were concerned
Yeah.
about, because that was one of the big reliefs I saw when I saw these amended plans.
I think we can see that.
John, that was
Look,
always
let's
the-
go on from here. Now can go from here to the proposed.
Go to the post.
Okay.
If we could jump elevation by elevation from approved to proposed, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, it's a little bit slow.
These guys makes it very difficult with stuff.
Hmm?
Yeah. So these will be the exterior elevation now.
I agree with John.
what?
This process makes it harder.
This is the front of the house.
This is the front of the house,
And you're gonna have the garage open into the front of the house.
to this side of the house. Yeah, it's where was originally proposed.
That was the
Well,
issue.
I guess the question is then on the right-hand side of that rendering, what's that oval opening?
Which one? This?
There you go.
It's just a side door for access for furniture and stuff like that. They're utilizing more of aesthetics. It's more from an aesthetic standpoint.
Because
It's
they're
not.
much larger than they might need be for the typical door.
Yeah, no,
It's a design
absolutely,
element.
absolutely. But you gotta understand that everything is like scale and proportion of the house.
Right.
And one thing to point out: this house, unless you have full access to this house, you're gonna be able to see it. You can't see it from the street whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's completely private.
We never
No
believed
matter.
that. Leaves fall off trees, you'd be surprised what you can see from the street, so, okay.
Okay.
I'm just gonna put this here, protocol to Dan, it's
Yeah, that's, yeah, as long as it's
Okay.
on the screen.
As long as it's on the screen, that's no peril, yeah.
Just for your.
Yeah, and we have the,
Yeah, but we like the really big plans. Okay? Okay, that's the,
So So I want to show you what was before. So that was the before.
That's technically the what, north elevation?
That's the same elevation that I just showed you. Sorry, it's hard for me to
Yeah.
switch it back and
No,
forth
it's
right
okay.
now. So that's what was approved. As you can see on the right side, we have the garage, which is a full two-story house. You see the gables. The
Yep.
crossing gables are actually very high. The main gable had partially a flat roof because it was so massive on the second floor. We reduced all of that.
Right, it was a two-story garage, was it, right?
Yeah, it was like a two-story massive house, and we've been trying to.
I just remember at one point it had 12-foot garage
Yeah,
doors.
it was- Okay.
Yeah, so so this will be the front, this will be the rear, I mean, this was the rear. Same deal, gables, we actually eliminated the middle gable, that's the middle crossing gable, so we don't have that anymore. So we made it a little bit, less impacted on that aspect. That's the garage side that you guys were talking about, and dormers.
I'm sorry, can you go back up again for 1 second? That is
The rear elevation.
your proposed,
No, that's the existing.
That's the
That was-
existing.
That's what was approved for.
right, that's the existing.
Yeah,
'cause we
and
had a
then I
lot-
can show
there were a
you
lot of
the,
questions about those windows, okay.
Yeah,
the
and
rear-
this
the
is
rear
what I'm,
elevation, just for
and this is the
ben-
proposed now.
Jorge,
Yeah,
just
it's
the
the
rear
south- it's the
elevation
south
for the
elevation.
benefits, the south
Yeah,
elevation.
it's the south elevation.
Correct.
Yep.
So that's the south elevation now. As you can see, there's only, the garage side is a lot smaller than what it was before. We're not going all the way to the maximum height on that side of the house. And also the crossing gables are less impactful as far as it goes as a mass. Like volumetrically speaking, is a lot smaller. That's the garage side now. The dormers are actually a lot more traditional, historic.
They're not 12 feet high.
Yeah, they're not, and the way you were just referring to before, it's the windows are actually a lot closer to the side of the dormer, so they look like dormers.
While we're here, talk to me about a lighting plan. I don't see a single light on on that house. Are there plans to be any kind of light
Yeah,
fixtures attached to it?
there's lighting on the renderings. I can switch it.
I see one fixture next to a door, but will there be fixtures by the garage doors?
Yeah, there will be.
Okay, if you could indicate them also on the
Okay.
plan, that would be great.
Yeah, they're on the.
They're on the rendering.
Yeah, but they're not on the.
Yeah, they're in the rents. I'm gonna open it in a sec.
Glad you brought that up.
Okay,
I'm sorry, it's a little bit slow.
this is like waiting for AOL in the 90s.
The phone
Remember the
dial-up.
phone dial-up?
Phone
Yeah.
dial-up.
All right, so this will be as you approach
Some of
the
you,
house.
like Alice, don't remember that. but
As you approach
those
the
of us
house,
do.
this will be
Yes, I do.
the northwest view.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. As you approach the house, this is a rendering of the northwest. As you get into the house, there will be these are the lights that we were discussing about. They're mainly ornamental. There's not going to be anything crazy. We are aware of light pollution. So that's what you're looking at right now as you approach the house. That's the opposite side of that. So that will be the southwest view, the garage in the back side of the house, and the lights that you were referring to.
If I may, could maybe see some of the material?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Yeah.
Very quick.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard here. So if I go back to the presentation. So some of the materials, as I said, it's going to be roofing. It's red western cedar roofing, and then there's going to be some metal roof on the lower part of the house.
The bulk of the roof is cedar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The metal roof is more on just the ornamental elements of the house, right?
Yeah,
Could you
not-
back up
not-
one more time? How dark gray is that metal roof?
It's going to be a charcoal gray.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, it's, then we're gonna have wood clapboard, and it's gonna be stained, when the colors here is Benjamin Moore, it's kind of a white, off-white color.
And when you say wood, it's real wood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Where's
gonna
the
be real wood.
clapboard going?
Clapboard is in between the dormers, you see?
Yeah.
And these are the washed brick, but the
John,
the
because,
exterior of the house, I'm sorry.
well, just let him answer the question, because I know, I understand.
Very frustrating.
here, that's where the clapboard is gonna go, next to the garage.
Right.
Each gable lane it actually has these brick veneer walls that they're trying to imitate like a very thick wall, but they're just smaller. It's brick veneer. And
Did you
then-
just,
not cut
but
brick,
did you
it's
just,
brick.
did you just double the amount of light fixtures
Yeah.
about the garages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, this is the different rendering. That was
Yeah.
the one before. My apologies.
And just while we're on that, the scale of those fixtures seems to change rendering by rendering from
Here, this is the one that
from
I'm referring to.
ginormous to,
Yeah, a bit excessive.
yeah,
We'll get you real dimensions.
yeah.
Here, I can give you all the real dimensions. This is the one that we're looking
Do you
at.
have cut sheets on the lighting?
Not with me, but I can get you that.
Even in that rendering, I think they're a bit excessive, but anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
Jorge,
So these
on
were the clapboards
On the
gonna go.
materials, I think you were just about to scroll down to the windows, the framing of the windows.
Yeah.
It's wooden framing except for the conservatory.
Right, and then,
In color?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. So the wood windows, they're gonna be painted dark charcoal in the outside, and then all the doors are dark green, along with the green garage doors, and then the dark gray is for the actual steel windows that we have in the lower part.
But the steel's only on the conservatory
Yeah,
and on the pool house.
absolutely. This is kind of the mood that you're gonna be getting with this house. Very raw material, a lot of reclaimed oak, and within the darker colors, charcoal colors and all that kind of stuff. And obviously the lime wash brick, that's kind of a bad picture, but it's gonna be brick, real brick with the application of a coating for.
How about reclaimed brick to go with reclaimed oak?
We want a what?
I'm not quite sure about the durability for that, but
And the wash brick creates the aesthetic, but it's more durable.
yeah, and eventually, when you do a lime wash, it will start coming off and peeling off and
Right.
give that kind of like older English look. So it's,
So these are lime washed
yes,
brick.
yes, they are.
Okay,
All right, so that's the finish and then the elevations for this, the pool house. Also, our pool house is a lot smaller than what was proposed and approved before. And
Can you go to the solarium, or, I'm sorry, the conservatory? 'Cause I just wanna see so the board can see the contrast.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, so this will be, it'll only be on this area where we're having steel and glass, sorry, that's it. And then on the pool house.
walk me through the materials. Are those metal windows or are those wood windows?
These in the pool house, these are gonna be steel to match the conservatory on the other side, and then we have.
And the color of those those steel windows is,
It's a black, it's a matte black.
and the paint trim color on that is,
I'm sorry?
the trim color?
The trim is all gonna be wood, it's gonna be like a charcoal,
Okay.
like a gray charcoal. And then the bricks, the lime wash brick.
Okay.
And then the pergola is also out of the reclaimed oak.
And talk to me about the door.
The door is the same as the
So the door-
steel. It's gonna be a steel door.
The recessed the panel at the bottom of the steel door is kind of odd. All right.
Yeah, usually they insulate it properly in order to make it effective and not
Well,
sturdy.
on the rendering, you show it as full
Yeah.
glass pane. Here you show the bottom being solid, so
Yeah, that might have been just from the rendering, sorry.
Well, which is it?
well, which is it? Yeah, that's.
It's gonna be a panel. It's gonna be a panel.
So the
solid
rendering
panel.
is incorrect then, okay.
I would just tell you how much I prefer the full solid door. I mean, the full glass door, but okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's a accommodation that you prefer, then. That's
Well,
definitely-
here's the thing. When you put the panel that way, just to me, the door doesn't look as purposeful to find the door. because it looks sort of broken up a little bit.
Okay.
Whereas when it's a solid, when it's a full panel door, it looks
absolutely.
more purposeful as a door.
Yeah.
Well, if you would prefer that, that's not a big change.
Yeah, that's definitely suitable.
Right.
You know, when you start working with renderings and elevations, you start like kind of like getting specifications of one thing, and sometimes the renderings, they're massive, very heavy, and then things happen. But yes, absolutely, that can be done.
Okay.
And in terms of that metal aspect, in what would otherwise be a more traditional materials buildings, if you want, I do have
Yeah,
maybe
I
5
see.
antecedents that I've worked on.
No, I think let's see if we have a question before we go down that path. All right. Do you have anything else to present?
No, that's it.
Okay. You said you had a landscape plan, but you're using the same one that we looked
No,
at
we're
last
using
time?
the same script.
Okay.
There's design plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
and actually, I think it's been planted, a lot of it.
And that makes one of those neighbors really happy.
Yeah, they want
Yeah.
at the east, and also they're keeping the giant tree.
And
that
at
they
the end
have
of that
there.
process, you found water for those plants, which is another thing at the moment. All right, board members.
I can start. In general, it's a much more attractive house than the original design, I think. How much it resembles a house in the village of Southampton is a different story, actually. But I think that the light fixtures, at least in the rendering, to me, are out of scale. They're just much too large for the house, especially the ones in the front. That double-story window that's on the front, or that the north facade of the house, that's the front?
Yeah, that's
Northwest.
where the staircase goes.
Yeah, that's a no-no from my perspective. It's a light pollution issue, plus it just, I think it's unattractive. I'd rather see that split between, it's 2 windows, one upper level, one lower level. And it's,
Okay, it's
Oh, all the more reason.
yeah.
But you can't see the stairway.
yeah, it's actually yeah. I mean, you can see.
And so, and to continue, I think the window trims are, I would like to see the color moderated for,
Before you go on, John, if I may, what do you want us to do with that tall window?
no, I'm just saying that the double-story window.
Yes, so what would your?
Well, I can't design it for you, but I think it's just overwhelming.
I mean, we have 3
Well, I mean,
double hung windows there.
Well, in the past, we've suggested that they be split between the upper and lower level
Okay.
window.
That's a good yes?
Yep, we've made.
And my only other comment is the color of the windows and the trim. I think if we could moderate to a lighter color gray,
Okay.
as well as the metal windows in the pool house and the solarium. I like the idea of the metal doors. I think it's really attractive for that use. I just wish it was more of a steely gray or a gray tone as opposed to a black.
That's visible. Yeah.
Well, both the trim, both the steel and the wood, a lighter color, right?
Yeah, and the steel, I imagine that would be a darker color of like a steel, but they don't have to match. I'll put it that way.
I understand, okay. But still light.
Just lighten it up.
Okay.
But I think it's an attractive house. I think it's much nicer looking than the original house. But my comment again is that there aren't many homes like this in the village of Southampton, so that's a little out of the norm.
Let's get on all comments. Go
But
ahead.
I don't dislike the house.
And possibly the roof is almost black. Maybe that should be a little bit lighter also.
Oh, that's just the visual, the rendering. It's gonna be a gray. You're referring to the metal roof?
The metal roof, yeah, I think you
Yeah,
said
no,
it was
that's
gonna
not
be
gonna
a
be black.
charcoal gray.
We're not trying to do the typical black trims, black metal.
Okay, well,
Not at all.
John, let us talk to one person here because you guys are sort of double teaming us and taking our time. So we're going to talk to you for right now. So
I
please
just
go ahead.
wanted to mention it, the roof looked very dark also, so maybe not quite so dark is my,
You're talking about the standing seam roof?
yes, that
Yes.
would be my comment.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, other than wanting to hear myself, I echo what John and Jane say.
All right.
Honesty.
Other than wanting to hear myself, first of all, overall, I think it's a handsome house. I think it's very different in its presentation than what we approved before. Both have their merits. I like this house. This is going to be the strangest question, but which of those is the front door?
It's the one right here on the side.
Yeah.
This is the mudroom. entry,
Okay.
and then the front door's on the side.
Okay, so that's the formal front door?
Yes.
Because in its current rendition, the double doors there facing the front of the house almost look like a front door.
Yeah, no, it's
So-
gonna be like a.
But when you
like a
drive
nice
up to the house,
courtyard.
that's the door that presents itself first,
Yeah.
right? So,
So I just think about that, because I think it's confusing, just architecturally confusing, where do I go to the front of this house? I agree with the comments about the color.
Mhm.
There was a, wait a minute, where's my notes?
I mean, there's gonna be a lot of planting
Yeah. The two
a
things,
lot of landscaping.
the two things I would say is, we will need to see, to be honest with you, it looks better in the rendering than it does.
yeah,
doesn't.
'cause that's the
it's
first thing
not-
you see is
yeah.
that door.
Okay, it looks,
Yeah.
and to be honest, it does look better in the rendering than it does in the drawing. Okay. Take into consideration, and we'd like to see cut sheets actually now on those light fixtures, because they do seem to vary between
Okay.
drawings.
I understand.
And some of them look a little massive and a little too almost Gothic against the house.
Mhm.
They almost look like Old English,
Mhm.
in one of the renderings, because they're the scale of them.
And hardware on
Um,
the gates, too, or
yeah.
the doors, I think that's an important element,
Yeah.
too. It's very pronounced, so it'd be nice to know what exactly it is.
On that rendering, I
and
do
the-
like the, what looks like a Mercedes 190 SL. Is
Yeah,
it?
comes with the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is, just when you're redoing the renderings, in the metal doors that you have that have panels, that have raised panels on them, on some of your renderings, it doesn't look like the same door that's on the pool house. So can you just make sure that they are consistent?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The door you had at your pool house that I said we prefer to have the door go all the way to the ground.
I will
You
make-
have other metal doors in the house that actually match the pool house, but they don't look the same in the renderings as they do in your elevations. So
Okay.
just, tell us which one you want,
Okay.
and just make sure they look visually consistent. And then that's
Absolutely.
sort of your call a little bit.
Yep.
Because when I look at the doors in other iterations of your renderings, they look different
Mhm.
and more cohesive, frankly, than the one I saw in the pool house. So that's just a comment. And I
Okay.
think it would echo what the other people have said.
Okay.
And then I would say, are there any comments from the public? Okay, so you're asking for an adjournment to the 13th of February? Okay. I move we accept the applicant's request for adjournment to February 13th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To quote a friend of mine, I can't predict the future. We can't really comment until we've actually seen it. We can never guarantee that until we've seen it. So
Possible.
you'll bring them up and we'll look at them again.
Okay, thank you.
It's a very handsome house, though.
It's a
Thank you.
process, right?
All right. Then we're going to go back to the agenda and bring up 30 Bellows, number 2, and this is a carryover, so we don't need affidavits. 30 Bellows.
Oh, good evening. Ron Volano, architect for the project. I did raise my hand, waiting for it to be accepted so I can upload the drawing.
Do what?
I raised my hand.
okay.
I'm waiting for acceptance to be. Stay as attendee. Got it.
Organized here before I get unorganized here.
I accept it as, stay as attendee. Should
Sage?
You gotta join as a panelist.
I, panelist, can you read? Got it. Thank you. All right. So we did go back to the design that you did prefer from the a couple of meetings ago. Pulled off the modillions, any roof returns, kept it the simple forward-facing gable.
Okay, got it. Sure, I can get the most recent. Okay, and you're looking at the drawings submitted January 17th. Okay. All right. Okay. So I think what we had issue with last time was the gable over gable front, and you've gone back to the drawing that we liked.
Okay, yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, the one that you preferred.
Okay. Well, the board.
The board, correct, the board.
Are you able to zoom in a little, Ron?
I'm trying. This thing just keeps freezing. It's a disaster.
Okay.
I know, it's not easy, this.
Okay.
Um,
And there were no changes to any of the other elevations?
no.
Okay. I will ask you in the future to put cardinal points on yours, because besides rear, front, side, side, in the future, they should have cardinal points on them, so we know
Yes.
north, south, east, west.
Correct.
Which these don't.
They usually do, yeah, I don't know why it does.
Yeah, these
yes,
don't.
It's helpful.
Okay,
So let's, I guess we should mark it, so the front is
the front elevation is.
Is the
north.
west.
What?
The front elevation is the west
That's
elevation.
west?
west?
Yes.
Right.
Which would make the rear east. And
Left would be.
would make the left side,
South, right?
and the right,
Left is gonna be north.
Yeah, what he's calling the left.
Left
would
is
be-
north, yes.
Would be north.
Yes, front is west, left is north, right is south, rear is east.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. Anything else to present?
I'm frozen, so if we want to stay like this.
Okay.
The main,
You're
from
done.
what we saw before, everything is the same. We just removed that mini interior gable and, again, any of the additional detailing, roof returns and.
Okay. Then I will turn it over to the board members. Board members, any comments?
No, not for me.
no objections from me.
Okay. Jane?
Just wanted to see that these are 2 columns on either side of the front elevation. Before, I think there were more columns
Yeah, so, yeah, yes,
blocking a window or something?
Correct.
So it's just the 2 now?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, here's the drawing from last week.
Oh, yeah. Big difference.
Yeah.
So, so it's all been simplified.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Jeff?
No objections. Thank you for making the changes.
You're
No,
welcome.
Yes, thank you. I think it now looks great and will look great in that neighborhood. I'll throw it out now to public comment. All right. Seeing as though we have no comments, I move that we approve the plans as submitted on January 17th for 30 Bellows Lane. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
And
you.
we're done. Thank you.
Good evening. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Okay. The next up on the agenda is 71 Hill Street, who has requested an adjournment until February 13th. Is that correct?
Correct.
I move we accept the applicant's request to adjourn 71 Hill Street until February 13th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up is, I have 43 Bailey Road, but I believe we approved that.
We did.
We did. Okay. So moving on to 20 Hillcrest, number 5, for 20 Hillcrest Avenue. Now, I believe you guys were just here asking us to approve the order of demolition, right?
Good evening, members of the board.
Hi.
My name is Bill Slight. I'm the new architect for this project. You are correct, Mr. Chairman. The request is for a certificate of appropriateness to approve the demolition of this building. In reality, this is a retroactive request. The building has been taken down. The work was done early part of the summer. The house that had existed on this site dates from about 1949, 1950. The original building was 22 feet wide and about 22 and a half feet in depth. It was a 2-story structure with a 6-pitch roof. in the 1980s, a 14 by 26 one-story addition was made to the southeast corner of the house. It kind of wrapped the back of the house a little bit. The house, when originally built, was clad cedar shingles, but over time, probably in the 1950s or early 1960s, it was clad with asbestos shingles. My client,
I'm going to move you along here because
Yeah.
this house is now gone.
That's right.
So, thank you for your letter. Here's what I'm going to ask. In your letter, you said that you were going to document the reasoning why that, because this house was torn down without a demolition permit, but you had actually said you were going to document for us why, the decay and the reasons why it was taken down.
Right, yeah, I was going to.
Yeah.
I was trying to give you
Yeah,
a
but your letter,
picture.
but I understand.
Yeah.
Your letter says that's what you're going to do
Yeah.
because it's been in front of us for a little while. What I would like to request, because you don't have plans, you're still working on updated plans for the house, right?
That's correct. Updated, I mean, the building is going to change.
Okay.
And in fact, we feel the correct procedure would be that since this is a challenged lot as far as its shape and its depth and the fact that it has 2 front yards, that first we're going to seek ARB, I'm sorry, ZBA approval.
Okay. So for the purposes of tonight, what I'm going
Yeah.
to say is, thank you for agreeing to document the decays for why the house was torn down. And I think because that's actually part of the reason that goes into our approval for it, I would like you to go ahead and do that and bring it in, because I'd like that to be part of the record before we approve the retroactive demolition for the house.
I'm not quite sure what you're asking. You're asking that.
I'm asking you to, I don't have your letter in front. Somebody have the letter in
as
front.
part of the approval to take the house down, we have to show you what the house is.
No, you have to document why you took it down.
Oh, why?
Yes,
Okay.
you agreed
Yeah,
in the
that's-
letter.
that's-
You agreed in your letter that you were going to provide us with documentation on why the house was taken down based on its decay.
Right. Yeah.
Which I believe.
Yeah, that's
So,
part. That's part of.
all I'm
that's-
asking is that you go ahead and do that documentation and bring it to the board, because I would like that to be part of the record as to why we're approving the demolition after the fact, because I think that makes the record more complete if we have that.
Yes, that's the reason for our appearance tonight,
Right.
is to provide you with testimony.
Well, no, actually, you said you were going to document it. So are you going to document, or you're just going to talk to us?
If I may, can I?
Oh, hang on.
Because
And-
you gentlemen said you've seen this property, you've had your inspectors over this property. This property was demolished in a period of 5 months.
I got
It
it.
was like, I wasn't doing it in the dark, I was doing it in daylight.
Mr. Flanagan, can you introduce yourself and then speak into the mic?
Board members, Gary Flanagan, I've been here numerous times. That's irrelevant, but I think you know who I am. The foundation is the start of any home, right? The foundation is full of cracks. It's CMU, concrete block. It's got no fill.
Mr. Flanagan, I am not disagreeing. In the interest of time, I'm not disagreeing with you on any of that. All
Why
I'm
would-
saying is, in a letter that we received from Mr. Slight, he said they were going to document for the board the condition of the house, which is why it was demolished. And all I'm saying is, we would like to receive that documentation because we would like to be part of the record when we approve the demolition of a house after its actual demolition. So if you can just get that together and bring it in, to me, that will complete the record, and then we can move forward.
So, that being said, can we submit these and not have to wait for another agenda, or do I get pushed over to another month because?
Well,
this
nothing
is-
comes
this is-
without the ZBA to begin with.
Well,
Well, we're getting our ducks in line,
Yeah.
like, we're
You
getting-
will, the decision will get pushed, but I don't think it's holding you up, because in the meantime, you're putting plans together to go to the ZBA. So I don't think we're actually holding up. All I'm saying is, I'm just asking you to do what you said you would do in the letter you provided to the board, because we would like that to be part of the record before we close it.
So the letter provided to the board we did not show what we said we were going to provide to the board today. We did not show any.
I have a letter. Does anybody have a copy?
Because I have pictures galore coming from
And that's
left,
all-
right,
that's
all
great
over the
Great,
place.
then put that together.
Excuse me?
Then put that together, the written explanation of why the house was taken down, and we'll
The hou-
put
the
it into
house-
the file. I don't know how more clear can I be. You guys said that you were going to document for us the reasons why you took the house down. So if you'll provide that documentation, we will put it into the file, and then we can close this matter. But I want the documentation in the file just to close it, because the house no longer exists, so I want the file to be complete.
So documentation example would be cracks in the foundation wall, no footing.
I think Mr. Sly understands. You understand what we're looking for, don't you? Yeah.
Sorry?
He understands what we're looking for. He's gone
I
through
know,
this with
but I
support.
need to understand too. I would like
Yeah.
to understand as well. This is going
Okay.
on a year and a half now for me.
Bullet points of item by item, room by room, foundation, roof, whatever it might be.
With
along-
pictures.
With pictures and comments about what is the condition of each of those elements.
That's fine. What I feel like, last time I was here, you accused me of demolishing it with an excavator. Not true.
Okay.
That's in the minutes. That's in the minutes of the meeting
We
we
have
had.
a very simple request.
So
here. Very simple
I
request.
canvassed
Bill,
the
do you understand
community.
what I'm looking for?
I know
Okay.
every person in the
Okay.
community now.
Bill,
they're
Bill
like-
understands what we're looking for. I'm going to suggest that we accept your request for an adjournment until February 13th. And at that February 13th, you're going to give us written documentation on the condition of the house and why it went farther as demolition is now gone without a demolition permit. So when we close the file is complete with all the information.
Would you like me to read the relevant portion of the letter? I found it.
Oh, if you could. Thank you.
Mr. McIntyre?
Hold please.
Okay.
I was
Sorry,
gonna-
I didn't know.
We intend to document the vast extent of decay found at the structure and the inability to preserve the building.
All right, so just put that in writing, bring it to us, and then we can move on. But I think it's important that we have that in writing in the file before we close this.
Can I ask one?
Yes,
How
sir.
come when I got this interior demolition permit and I started demolishing and I saw the sill plates were all rotten, the foundation has
That is not a
cracks?
question for this board, sir. That is a question, we can't,
Well, for
we
2
weren't
months,
there, and we can't advise you on what would happen on the interior of your
My
building.
question was, for 2 months, 3 months, pictures would tell, I was demolishing this home, nobody came near me. I was doing it in daylight. And
Okay.
nobody was like, typically
Again,
there'd
that,
be an inspector
this
would
is
come
no,
in and say, "Yeah,
none of this is
stop."
in the interest of time. None of this is an interest for this board, because that's between you and the building inspector. Because we don't inspect the buildings when you're taking them
Yeah.
down. We just approve demolitions, and you're asking us to approve a demolition now in a building that's already been demolished.
I'm not
So
asking,
I'm
no,
gonna
I'm not
say this
asking
one more time, and then I'm gonna move we close this. Bill, you know what we're looking for.
Alex,
If
did you
will
have
just
something
put it
to add?
into writing.
Alex?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify 2 points that, Mr. Chairman, I think when you meant to submit applications, you meant by the submission deadline for the 13th meeting, which is actually going to be February 9th at noon. And the other part is that this does not need a certificate of appropriateness, it's just a demolition approval because it's outside of the historic district.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
That's helpful.
So I'm going to move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to the meeting for February 13th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So just bring us that written report, and then we can move on. But I just want it for the file.
You've closed before I had a chance to ask you for just a small question.
Go ahead.
Is it all right that I?
Yes, go ahead.
I've
No.
What?
We have to
No.
reopen the.
We can vote to reopen if you
Okay,
want, but.
no. To be fair, I move to reopen the application. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Question?
Okay.
Actually, I'm not trying to prolong the meeting.
I know.
I've only recently been taken on as the architect for this, and I've only, just in the last day or so, had an opportunity to review some of the pictures of the process that went on in the demolition of the building. Some of it is explanatory. Some of it will require a certain amount of captions. So, and some of it would just have to be kind of a verbal description or written, I should say, a written description. Would that be satisfactory to the board if I presented it in that way?
In written form?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Give us, I know you just walked onto this project, so just give us what you can.
Okay. I will.
So we have everything together.
I
to move on.
completely understand, and I appreciate the fact that you really want to have something in record that documents
Thank
this.
you.
That's the point.
That's the
Thank
proper
you.
way to do it.
And to be fair, we also know we're not holding your project up because you
No,
still have to
no,
get plans in front of
there's
ZBA, so we're not trying to be obstructive. We sort of know where you are in your process.
Right.
Okay.
We completely understand, and your guidance is helpful. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
And Bill, you caught what Alex was saying about getting it in on the Thursday before the meeting.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
I understand that, yes.
Okay.
And any
Great.
photographs and things you have to support that written documentation is icing on the cake.
Yeah, the reason I was asking the question, Mark, is that to me, the photographs will need a certain amount of interpretation by me in order for you to understand.
Exactly, because
Okay.
we've seen some of the photographs, so just if you would fill the rest of that out, it'd be great.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, so then I move we re-accept the applicant's request to adjourn until February 13th. Do I have a second?
I'll re-second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Thank you.
All right. I've lost my place.
Pheasant.
37 Pheasant? Oh, yes. Next up is 37 Pheasant Close. Is the applicant here? I bet they are. Okay. Can you please introduce yourself to the board?
Good evening, board members. My name is Gabriel Gombana with Shepard Engineering, and I'm here to review our application for the Kershey residence at 37 Pheasant Close West. Just give me 1 second to pull it up.
So many plans on this house.
Yeah. This is existing.
It's just not letting me share my screen. Oh, wait. Okay.
There you go.
All right, perfect.
Victory.
All right. So the application is for the front porch, a rear addition, and a rear second floor deck. We received a ZBA approval for the front porch because it was protruding in the front yard. The rear addition is for an additional.
Actually, you received a ZBA approval for a variance for the front porch.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
The rear addition is for an additional bedroom suite, and the second floor deck is proposed off a seating area on the second floor. We have prepared a line of sight analysis to show the privacy for the neighboring properties, 31 and 43 Pheasant, Close West, which will not be affected since there are pivots on both sides and evergreens that are about 30 feet on the side for 31 Pheasant. The homeowner has also slightly modified the existing pool as part of a separate pool permit, and we have incorporated the new pool area in the lot coverage calculations. All these proposed modifications are within the allowable GFA, lot coverage, and within the required setbacks. We have tables on the title sheet that show this. We did get a foundation permit for the rear addition because it met all the zoning guidelines, and the homeowner is eager to finish this renovation before this summer. Only the front porch will be visible from the front street. We also understand that, Mark McIntyre, you did visit the site, correct?
I did. I believe several of my, you're aware that I visited, but I believe several people also visited. But go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
My apologies.
That's okay.
The proposed rear addition has been designed so that it matches the rest of the house. The exterior of the new addition will also match the existing brick veneer that is currently there. Laid out with the same running bond and with matching brick coins at the corners. The soffit and the freeze board will also match the existing house, so we wouldn't be changing any materials and keeping what's already there.
Okay.
The roof shingles that are proposed are architectural shingles that will also match the existing. And the windowsills and windows will also match existing materials. We have a sheet that indicates these proposed materials on page 3. And for areas, the porch area is 132 square feet, the rear addition is 430.3 square feet, and the proposed second floor deck is 10 deep by just under 12 feet wide, making the proposed second floor deck 116 square feet. I would also like to note before concluding that when we originally designed this rear deck, we did design it just under, it was about 280 square feet, and it was a lot bigger. It spanned 13 feet deep and about 20 feet in width. And after further discussion with the homeowner and kind of what would suit best for the lot coverage as well as for the appearance of the house, we did minimize it to about 13 feet by 18 to 20 feet wide. And we still noted that it was too big. So if you see in the second floor plan on the second to last page, it does show that we did minimize it to what the size is currently in the proposal.
Okay.
And it being just small enough for us to have a table, outside dining, and shading in the exterior, but not taking too much away from what the back facade is and the whole deck.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, no. Can you go to the next page in your
Yeah.
proposal, please? Now, can you walk us through the changes you're making to the front porch?
Got it. So with the existing,
Sorry. I found the page I was looking for, sorry.
okay.
Okay.
So with the front porch, the changes we've made is we did make it a slight bit smaller than what it previously was. Currently, there is no front porch existing. And with this front porch, what we are doing is we're spinning just outside of the windows to not ruin any line of sight while you're inside, and also keeping a solid front door for privacy reasons and to kind of match the interior of the house. And that, so that's it for the front porch, and everything will match existing for the roof shingles and the exterior material being brick veneer. The posts being, if I'm not mistaken, they will be white. Yep. So that's it for the front porch. Would you like me to continue, or do you want to?
Yes, I want you to take us through each one of the, anywhere the house is being touched. Take us through what you're doing in the renovation you're doing in the back, then take us through both the size and the materials of the porch, so to walk us through everything.
Okay. So. Okay. And for the rear, the biggest change is the rear addition that we did get approved for. And as stated previously, that'll be matching with the brick veneers. The brick veneers exactly will be white Carrane. My apologies if I didn't say that correctly. I know there's some trouble sometimes saying that. With the matching coins on the corners. And the exterior lighting to also match what's existing, which is the white exterior lamps. And then in for the rear deck, what we are proposing is mahogany posts, a white mahogany railing that's painted white, and if I'm not mistaken, that's all for materials. In regards to sizing, as stated before, it's just under 12 feet, 10 feet deep. And as for the addition, on the first floor plan, you can see it is 21 feet by 20 feet wide.
Okay. Okay. Board members.
I have a question about the lighting on the back of the house. The first floor, I mean, it looks okay. My only concern is that the two lights on both sides of the second floor balcony, and by the way, the balcony is in proportion to the house and makes much more sense now, so I thank you for that. But the lighting on the second floor, that might present like a light pollution issue, because it is on the second floor and projects, to neighboring houses. So I would like to see, I don't know what I'd like to see, but that's my concern.
Let me ask an honest question. Is that where the lights were before you made the balcony smaller?
You're referencing to the second floor by the balcony?
Yeah.
There currently are no lights there. They're
No,
just
but
below, yes.
As drawn on your rendering, are those lights where they were before you made the balcony smaller? Because right now, they don't make any sense.
Because they're not near the edge of the balcony?
They're not near anything. You're lighting up the backyard, but you're not lighting up the balcony. So I think you should think about the location of those two light fixtures.
Okay.
Because they're just sort of in the center of the house, which is weird.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, closer to the doors and smaller.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so I wondered if they were there when the balcony was wider. When you made the balcony smaller, they just stayed there.
In all actuality, they were wider. I moved them there simply because of the bottom under it, and I wanted to kind of keep that equal balance, because if they do get too close, what worried me was it was too close to the window and it kind of threw off this axis. But I do understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that's definitely possible for us to move them a
It would
little
make more
more.
sense to come within the confines of the balcony.
Yeah, the purpose of the lights.
Yeah.
The purpose of the lights is in relationship to the door, not to the lights below them.
Yes.
So if you move them in.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Introduce myself. Yeah. My name is Dr. David Kershey. I'm the homeowner. Are lights by that door required by code? Because I would, if they're not required by code, I would just eliminate them altogether. we don't
Good
really need
question, but
lighting.
I like that suggestion.
I would tell you, I do not believe they are.
Okay, so if
but
they're
I-
not required by
I'm not-
code, we could eliminate them altogether.
You'd be better off to
I
eliminate
thought,
them,
I
yeah.
thought they only had to be there because of code, and
No,
the
and if they,
architect
and
did
if,
originally.
if they were by code, they'd have to have been closer to be.
I think that was
Oh.
the, because the deck was bigger and we
That's-
didn't move those closer, but that
That's
seems
what I
to be-
suspect, because I
yeah.
believe that they were there when that deck was much
They're,
larger.
yeah, I think they're gonna be about 15 inches
Okay.
from 10 to 15 inches from the edge of the door.
So
Okay.
that's a good solution, just
So,
remove them.
if we can just cross them out and.
Well, let's go through everything
Okay,
first.
sure.
Because they would have to be crossed out and signed off by the licensed engineer or architect. Are you the licensed engineer on this project?
No, I'm the project designer. Mark Schiffer, he's the licensed engineer.
Okay. All right.
He's like.
Yeah, he should be on the Zoom, I believe.
Yeah, but he's
He
not
has to-
here to
Yeah,
site
yeah.
plan, so, okay. But let's get everyone's comments first. Jeff?
Oh, I have no objections to the design, good pickup on the lights. David, I think removing them actually makes a deck look better. I mean, it's almost more, and just as a side note, I more inclined, having now approved a few weeks ago a house on White Street that's a good 200 feet away from me.
Yeah.
And I see what they're building, and
It's huge.
the light exposure is gonna be terrible. So
Told
I'm
you.
more
Told
sensitive to now than I ever was. But so, David, I think removing those lights is a plus.
Okay. Jane?
I'm just curious, the addition of the bedroom is only on one floor, the bottom floor? Yeah,
Correct.
okay, just, this is new to me. I've been by the
Oh, that's
property,
right,
but
yeah.
I've only seen the front. So I just wanted to make sure that,
Okay. I have a couple of questions.
it looks like there's lighting on the side of that. Is that,
You're in reference to the elevation on the left side?
looks like there might be lighting on the side, yeah, the left side of the,
This one. That's for the garage,
Okay,
on the elevation above.
and that's already existing?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I have several comments, actually. Under your west elevation, again to the lighting, you see where there's a light to the right of the sliding doors
Yes.
on the extension?
Yes.
Well, you got the other lights the other side of the window over there?
Yeah,
That light should be balanced to the door.
good call.
You're referencing the third one?
Yeah.
No. Go left, young man.
Right next to the window.
Right there.
Oh.
That is, it should be next to the door, because the
In
purpose of
in
the light
between
is
the
to light
window
the
and the
pathway.
sliding door.
Yeah.
Yeah, because its relation is weird.
Good
My,
catch.
my next comment would be on the north elevation, because when you look at the sort of window ratio of this house, they're all sort of 4/4s, but they tend to be pretty much square windows. But suddenly we have these two narrow, tall windows. Are those there because that's a bed wall?
You're talking about the ones above the garage,
On the
correct?
on the extension.
Oh, on the, yep.
See those two sets of double hungs in the extension? Are
Yeah.
they that narrow because that's your bed wall?
No, so this is all for the one on the left is for a closet,
Okay,
and the one on the right is for a bathroom, and on the left side of this right side window is where the shower is going to be.
okay. So what I would ask you to just think about is if those windows and the two, because we seem to be under fenestrated on this side of the house. You see those two narrow windows over the garage doors?
Yes.
Because when you go around this house, the window relationship to walls is different in this side elevation than it is in any other elevation of the house. So I would just think about either, if those are windows in bathrooms and closets, they could actually be smaller if the window can go in the room, or just think about that. And the same thing on the windows over the garage. I think that elevation looks under fenestrated. Because we sort of have a window-to-wall relationship that we look for here in the village.
Yeah.
And this looks slight to me.
Can I answer that one?
Sure.
Okay. So,
It's your house.
Thank you, Mark. So the two windows that you're speaking about above, these are existing.
Those are existing.
Oh, those are existing,
These are
okay.
existing. This is the master bedroom. The in between here is the king bed. That's the bed wall.
That's the bed wall. That was
Yeah.
my question.
So
Okay.
those have to stay.
Right.
Okay.
He didn't draw the grates up here, but those are removable grates, Anderson windows. But not the.
So
what's the-
with that, the new windows are kind of like in symmetry
They're
with
kind of in
those
sy- they're kind of
windows.
in sy-
Yeah, so,
okay.
and then this is a narrow walk-in closet, that's the only window that could fit, because you have a hanging closet rack here, and a closet, hanging pole there. So really, that's the only thing that you can fit, so out of symmetry, this has to match that.
No, you're right.
This is the limiting factor here, so there's nothing else you can really do. You can't make this walk-in closet window wider, because then you'd have clothes, you
In
get
your
it.
window.
Yeah.
What's in the center of the wall?
Well, this is the rest of the closet. I'm sorry if you can pick it. This is the rest of the closet, and right around here would be the wall. It's a 2x6 wall separating the bathroom from the bathroom over here. And this is where the shower is. So this
Okay.
has to be a solid wall.
All right.
Where the shower is. The shower runs from left to right.
Well, it could be windows, but I don't think you'd want them in your shower,
What
but.
else you could do there in terms of the window size?
Well,
I mean, in floor plan, this
And
is
it's not
also.
visible from the street either?
just so everyone's clear, we don't care if it's visible from the street
Okay.
because we look at total houses. But the, okay, so if those two are existing, kind of matches up, then let's go to the front porch. The one thing I would say about, two things I would say about the front porch is when I look at, go to the left in your drawing, in your rendering. What is that a rat? What is sticking at the top of that? No, to the left. That rendering that you have there?
This one?
Yeah.
Yep.
See, in your front porch, what is sticking out on that rendering? What is that? What looks like a rafter? Is that because, is that roof underneath there and you're showing underneath there?
Are you talking about this dark gray here?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just the shading. The
That's
shading
that's
coming in
just
from
shading. Okay.
above.
All right, and then,
Oh.
then going to the other drawing, here's the other thing I would say, is going to the other drawing. The only thing I would say is the weight of the column holding up the pediment looks like the columns are too small. They look mingy compared to the weight of the pediment. So if you're going to go with the pediment, I think you're going to need beefier columns to give the right kind of proportion to that to make sense.
Okay.
That's a good call, yeah.
Yeah.
And those would be my comments.
Without obstructing the windows that
Yeah.
are behind.
Yeah.
Or you could do one of two. Are those, I don't know, those are the existing side lights to the front door?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
Can't you just bring the posts out closer to the edge of the roof line? Or the overhang?
What I would suggest is, well, okay, you see the frieze under the pediment?
yeah.
Can you make that a little bit wider but beef up the columns? Because right now the columns look like toothpicks holding up a catch, and they're like toothpicks holding up a big heavy.
Yeah, so we
Structure.
definitely can. I believe we do have here about a foot and some inches, 2 or 3. So
Okay.
we can.
Okay, so that would be my concern there, because right now the weight of those columns is out of balance to the size of the light fixture, which is out of balance to the size of the pediment.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
Okay.
Quick
That's it.
comment on that?
Sure.
So, I agree with that, and I did bring that up, and I did say that those were a little narrow. If you look at the peak of the roof, we made it smaller so that the angle would be inside the brick coin detail.
Yep.
So we made that smaller. If we did make the column, the supporting column wider, it would partially obstruct that window. Is that a problem? Architecturally,
I think,
aesthetically?
pull it in a little bit tighter. I think, take the architecture and engineer to work that out, but it looks to me like pull that up a little bit. I think you have some options there. I understand what you're saying about the width, but you see that the frieze doesn't go to the end of the pediment or redesign the pediment slightly to where it'll accommodate a bigger pole toward the end. And I can't speak for the board members. I would rather see a bigger column partially blocking the windows than these little toothpicks holding up the pediment, just
Yeah,
because the balance is terrible.
I would have to agree.
I agree.
That's my appointment. All right, so those would be our comments. So
Yep.
I guess
That was a good call.
Anyone? Yes? All right, any comments from the public? All right, so you're requesting adjournment to February 13th.
Are there any options?
No, because we're gonna have to see updated, we're gonna have to see updated drawings for it. So
Worth a
you're
shot, okay.
requesting an adjournment to February 13th, and if you can just get the drawings in by the 9th. So we have them all here, which just says updated. And to reiterate, it's the light fixtures, it's the weird fixture location on the addition and the front porch.
Yep.
I take back what I said about the window to wall ratio because while it's wrong, it's existing on the existing house, so now they kind of balance. So, all right.
Okay.
Can I
Fair.
bring up one more thing?
And that's the 9th at noon in print and digital form.
Just so that this doesn't come up on the next meeting, and
Yeah.
the addition here, the triple sliding door, we did the 3 panels to match the rest.
Right.
In terms of window to wall ratio, you're okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
The only thing we're not fine with there is that odd light fixture to the
odd
left.
light,
Just
yeah,
kind of
that's
like
fine.
just hanging there.
Light
in
fixture,
the
light fixtures,
middle of nowhere.
I agree.
They
It should
frame
be there.
doors.
Okay, that's fine. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. So you're requesting adjournment? Okay.
Correct.
So I move we accept the applicant's request for adjournment for 37 to,
February 13th.
to February 13th. Okay. Do I have for 37 Pheasant Close West to February 13th? Do I have a second?
Second, yes, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll see you then.
Thank you,
and
board
we'll
members.
move you along. Thank you. All right, so next up we have new matters. The first one up is 144 Downs Path. Do we have affidavits and are they in order?
They are in order, and I believe the architect is participating via Zoom,
Okay.
unless I'm totally wrong. Okay.
Do you have any of those?
Sweet Lord.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, how are you tonight?
We're well, thank you. Please introduce yourself.
And Ryan Kessner, I'm the architect for 144 Downs Path. I'd like to begin the presentation, if that's okay with you guys.
Please.
Okay. 144 Downs Path is an R80 zone that has 60,000 square feet. It is a non-conforming. What we opted to do is put a single-family dwelling on here with a gate, pool house, pickleball court, and generator. We have opted to go with a vernacular Southampton double gable design. 1, 2, with the center hall in the middle. Trying to line up all the windows on the front. So you get a better idea what we're trying to do here from this rendering here. We have opted to do a cedar roof with gray weathered cedar siding and white trim. This is the pool house. Main house. That is the rear elevation. Again, double gable on the line up as much as you can. On the line of the pool house is the pool, of course. Under the regular brick chimney. Two gravel driveways. And the elevation is there. We've also demonstrated pyramid compliance with the 45-degree angles, of course, and the maximum height, and with the flat roof specification here. Again, we do believe that we are in contact with the village, and we would love your comments.
Great, thank you. Just to refresh, what is the size of this lot?
This lot is 60,000 square feet in the R80 zone.
Okay.
Sorry, 60,002 square feet. So we're under by 20,000 square feet right off the top.
Okay.
And we're on the corner of Baltic Farm Drive and Downs Path.
Yeah. All right. Board members?
Okay, just a few things. I would lose the brow windows. I would remove the transoms throughout, the transom windows. And the pool house as well, those, the windows that are just don't seem necessary, in the roof line. And also, I would need to see a sight line analysis for the balconies on the rear of the house.
Okay.
John? I'm sorry, Jeff?
That's fine. Maybe it's underscored by the difference of the cars in the driveway. So this looks like an Aston Martin as opposed to the previous one that had a more simpler Mercedes 190 SL. I bet, and a Jeep too. I'll give you that much. So, so there's a lot going on. Some of which John mentioned. That I think if they were taken down and simplified, the house would have more appeal. John mentioned the eyebrow window on the roof. I'm not even sure what they're called, but the
protecting boxes?
The boxes coming out, the protruding white boxes there in the front. The double, I don't know the correct terminology, but almost like a gable upon a gable.
The double, yep, the double gable.
The double gable, I think adds a level of complexity that is a bit of overkill, and then that when you add that all that stuff together with the balcony over the front and all the windows, I think the whole thing just would benefit by being taken down a bit.
Okay, Jane?
Yeah, I would agree with the white boxes and the transom windows. My question is, what is this in the pool house here? This brick or cement structure?
Oh, off to the side?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's a grill
I
or
assume
something
it's
like
an outdoor
that.
kitchen.
This thing here?
Yeah.
Over here?
Yeah, is that an outdoor kitchen?
Yeah, it's an outdoor kitchen over here.
Oh, okay.
But it looks closed in on both sides.
Well, it's only closed, I'll show you in the plan what you can see it better.
It's like an
So what you're
kitchen
seeing
without an
is the
escape
outdoor
zone.
kitchen. We have this roof coming through it like that, and then we have the other one reversing on top of it. So this is actually outside.
I get that, but
This is the covered area, covered area.
So to get into the kitchen, you have to go into the house to get into
Yeah.
the kitchen?
Correct.
Into the pool house, right, okay.
Yeah.
is that practical?
If you have a private chef, you want them to have their own exclusive space.
Uh-huh.
course.
But if I live in that house
Always.
and I'm barbecuing, you need to go grab the child out in the backyard?
Silly
Do I have to
you.
go back in the house and back out the front door? You might want, I think the U-shaped answer to that's a little much, but okay. But that's, all right. Anything else? All right, so my comments would be, a lot of times when people start designing even these big houses, their natural inclination is to over-architect them or put too many details on because they think it makes the house look fancier and better, and this is one of those examples. I think the white boxes add heavy weight to the house, and I think its massing to the street is too heavy for the village. I agree that the eyebrow window is too much. Whether these are, I guess are intended to be exposed rafter tails treatment, I think that's a step too far. And then this double gabled window that has nothing but a decorative implement to it, there's no design honesty to it. So I think that needs to be pulled back and just simplified and calmed down. Because when you drive around, especially the larger houses in the village, there's sort of a calm shingle architecture of the village, and this is a little overwrought. I agree with John that the transom windows are also a step too far. What I would want you to think about, and it's not a deal breaker for me, but in the front door, you've got 4 even-sized doors that go all the way across the front, like you want to look all the way through the house. But I don't think the front door presents as where's the front door. So you may want to think about that. In the rear of the house, the eyebrow window and the, I guess, either dental treatment or exposed rafter tail or whatever that is in the top of the gables, I would think about that. And just from a practical standpoint, if you have to go all the way in the house and all the way back to the house for the kitchen, but I'll let you think about that one. The window, the horizontal window that's over the pool house that then has the treatment, that then has the gable treatment, is too much. And it actually takes what's a sort of a sweet pool house and just makes it overwrought. So I think you might want to think about that. The transoms that you have over the windows and the balconies and the back should probably go, and if they're going to stay, they should match the other transoms in the house because they suddenly don't have any muntins in them. So you see where we're sort of going with this. I think the overall scheme of the house seems fine. It's just over-detailed and over-architected, and what it takes away from is a little bit of design honesty. And it also ends up ends up with this big visual mass to the house to make it look even bigger that I think is inappropriate to this section of the village. Do you have any comment?
Are you okay if you built out gable ends, or would you prefer to see the shingles going all the way up?
Board?
Shingles.
I think we'd probably, I think my opinion would be I'd prefer just to see shingles going all the way up.
Yeah. It simplifies the.
Okay.
And if you wanted to come back with it, some of the houses we have in the village have decorative elements in the shingling sometimes, like fishtails or scallops or something. If you want a little detail, but it's too heavy, and also it makes the house feel all that weight at the top makes the house feel top heavy. With what you want to draw people in is to going into the front door to enjoy the house, and it takes away from the arrival.
Are you okay with the grill patterns?
It's a little busy, but
The
grill patterns.
The grill patterns. They've got 8 over clears. They got 4 transoms over 8 over clears.
the transoms, I don't like it at all.
Yeah, I actually think if you brought the transoms down, and you might be able to make the doors a little bit taller. The actual grill patterns doesn't really bother me.
Okay.
Okay. One thing we would ask is, would you take us through the materials? Like, what are those railings made of?
These will all be made out of either, probably do that like pine or something like that. It's gonna be natural wood. It's not gonna be like PVC or anything like that.
Okay.
There's not gonna be anything that's not natural wood on this house.
Okay. If you heard us on the last house, what I would say is across the back, the double pairs of columns across the back actually look very handsome on this house because they add the kind of heft visually to the size of the balconies that are over them.
Okay.
All right.
Which themselves are questionable depending on the sight line.
I would throw it open. Do we have anyone from the public? Okay. All right. So you're asking for an adjournment?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to say, I move we accept the applicant's request for adjournment to February 13th or 144 Downs Path. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
Okay, we'll see you then, and you know that the deadline date is the 9th at noon.
9th at noon. Okay.
With both
You guys
digital
can
and
hold that, okay?
printouts.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. Okay, next up is 292 Ox
we did
Pasture
that.
Road.
We did that because that was historic.
I'm sorry,
490.
it's 495 the other one. 495 Ox Pasture Road. Are the affidavits in order?
They are. This is another one where the posting had gotten messed up. They reposted today and provided evidence of that, but we will hold the record open and not make a decision tonight.
Great, thank you. Okay, welcome.
Want some samples for you guys to?
Thank you.
A lot of samples.
That's what I heard.
just do me a favor and introduce yourselves.
Oh, thank you.
I'm Danny Canaris with Martin Architects.
Tim Greening, Martin Architects. We're here on behalf of the property owner, 64 Down East Lane, LLC.
Okay.
Share our screen. Yeah. So, this application for 495 Ox Pasture Road is for a newly constructed two-story residential structure. This new residence will replace the existing two-story structure that you're seeing here. The current house is a painted cedar shingle style speculative home built in the 1990s. It's it's a home that features hip roofs that, as you can somewhat see, encroach on the second level fenestration, as well as some deep soffits. The entry is stepped back away, into the home. As we pan around, you can see a L coming off of the structure, which is a two-story. It's a garage featuring a second level of.
But to be clear, the demo approval for that house was done in like November, right?
Yeah, so we
that house is
submitted, right.
So that house is going away.
Yes.
So why don't you just take us to the new house?
I didn't
That
know
hou-
if we,
because
yeah.
that
okay.
house is being leveled, it
Yeah,
doesn't really matter
right,
what it
okay,
looks like.
perfect, okay. Oh, sorry.
Just one question before you start.
Yeah.
The house you're proposing is on the same footprint?
No, we are siting it slightly.
We're rotating it a bit for
So-
sun angles.
We're going to be rotating it and bringing it north slightly. So here the dashed, let me zoom in a little bit more. The dashed line is the outline of the existing structure.
The dash line, okay.
I don't know if I can annotate on this.
No, okay.
Okay.
I've got
I
it
guess I
put
can
that here.
point out over
So
here.
I guess
you are
which-
not,
which-
you're not 100% going to orient the house to the street, you're going to orient it to the sun.
Yes, correct. We are changing the orientation to get better sun angle
Will
and
it-
exposure for
But
the
it's gonna
interior.
be closer to the street.
It will be.
What's the required setback, 80 feet?
Correct, and we have our setbacks shown.
Before we even go here, do you have the survey that shows how the property sits with the surrounding properties? There's a microscopic picture in your,
Cover sheet.
yeah, on the cover sheet. I can't really tell what the subject property is. There you go, perfect. All right.
Sorry, it's a little blurry.
No, that's exactly what I.
So as a point there, we are not going any further than the adjacent homes to the east and west. We're actually still even further back off of the street than they are.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So while we are developing a minimalist modern home as our proposed structure, our intent is to utilize regionalism and maintain the context of the local surroundings via our palette and our textures. So you can see here as we speak of palette, we'll have what's known as an abodo. So all natural wood, we'll maintain the wood feel and textures of the home. While as far as tonality, The Abodo Suite X is more of a white tone. And then we will be complementing that with the Nigiri, which is a silverish gray tone. So bringing, again, a balance to, within our own architecture and palette, but maintaining a feel for the local context. The structure will feature tongue and groove that is matched with a open spaced kind of stick facade system, as referenced similarly here to this precedent image. The open frames will also be run vertically in the manner shown here. And this is just a bit further detail of our proposed open spaced areas for the facade. Better shown in our renderings. We're attempting to bring down the scale of the home and integrate a more uniform look with stepped facade elements where we have open enhanced frames, but more facade pieces that are stepped slightly back. Again, a change in what's solid board, our full board versus our open slatted system. Again, much of the proposed construction will feature on allowing light into the building and connecting the public spaces that are on the south as well as public spaces that are on the north side of the property. So we're doing that by bringing this rectangular, this cube through the main entry that runs through the foyer and the dining room to family and living room spaces on the north.
Just want to
As shown
reiterate,
as-
it's a southern-facing facade, so we made a bunch of moves to allow light to get into the more public rear yard, where we put the kitchen, the living room, where majority of the
Yes.
public space will be.
In addition, the same thought was brought into why we flat roof structure, again, being that it's southern facing facade, it would allow better usage of solar panels.
We didn't want the solar
Well,
panels facing the street. Originally, we did have a gable design.
Yeah.
That was our reasoning to go with a flat roof.
Okay. Okay.
South.
Anything else? Okay.
Do you have the rendering of the east or the west facade?
Yes.
There you go. Thank you.
And this is the northeast.
That's the garage.
That would be the garage. It'd be an integrated panel, that's why it's a little tough to see there.
Yeah. And the west?
And then that is northwest, and then that would be our southwest.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So maybe make note, I guess if you look at our site plan, we did work around we kept a lot of the existing, there's great trees on the site.
There are.
Really mature, full grown. We worked within the design to maintain those as well.
Yeah, we wanted to maintain the entrance into the home and into the property as much as possible.
We're maintaining the two existing curb cuts from the existing.
Can you answer something for me? And I don't know if you know the answer to this. If I drive down Ox Pasture, how many other houses are not oriented to the street?
don't think we studied that, to be honest with you, but
No, so I'd be surprised
Yeah.
if you did, but
I doubt there are any.
yeah.
I believe they're all oriented to the street. Okay. Board members.
Okay, well, let me start. Because it maybe picks up a little bit off of what you were saying in terms of the orientation. Sorry, thanks. I'm picking up a little bit off of what Mark was saying, building on the orientation. The other thing that's not on ox pasture are contemporary houses. Or if there are, I haven't seen them. They may be far back. And it's not that I haven't, in the 7 years I've been on the board, approved contemporary houses in more traditional areas. There's one on White Street that people still ask me sometimes, how did you do that? Well, it's a beautiful house, and it sort of fit into that property. I question whether this house is harmonious with that area. That doesn't say that there's not a place for a contemporary house in that neighborhood. So the board is charged with using its judgment to determine harmonious character because of style, materials, mass, line, color, detail, and placement upon the property or in relation to the spaces between the buildings, such to create a harmonious composition with the whole on the property and with the neighborhood. So I asked where the house was located, and while it's within the required setbacks, it's still forward of the current house, almost as much as deep as that house is. Correct. So I think such a stark and different design in that neighborhood, oriented slightly askew of the street, prominent to the street, is going to present a mass that will make it appear larger than the surrounding houses and more massive than the surrounding houses. And then that, added to that, the design of such a stark difference and a stark design just by itself, I think is going to contribute to the disharmony of that. So I have a difficult time approving it based on just those general things. Now, you have property to move it further back if you chose to. You have property sufficient to align it to the street. So I don't know, maybe that's some elements that, maybe the adjustments to be made there. It's obviously your client is not going to build a traditional house, right? I assume we're not going from.
I think what pushed us away from that was the solar panels and the street-facing southern facade.
So.
If we had a gabled roof.
There'd be ways around that, okay.
Oh, so, okay, well, I assume your client was just, heart set on building a contemporary structure. If you're saying he wanted to build a traditional structure, then that might be a different story. And as far as the materials, I know you're saying you're trying to give respect to the environment and the neighborhood by doing that, but I think in a contemporary design, it's small attribution. So, anyway.
Okay. Microphone. I know you hate it.
I find it a little alarming that it's so modern in such a very, very traditional estate section. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. The orientation, I think that for whatever reason, we always do that. We always put a house on the street. We square it up. Whether that's right or wrong, I honestly don't know. So I'm in a little bit of a quandary over the whole concept.
One thing I was going to add, and now Jane's comments make, I think, it even more important for me to get a sense of it is to do a streetscape in dimension, in proportion, in perspective to the houses on either side of it.
I don't even think we're there yet.
And there is
You're not even
historic
there yet?
district across the street.
Yes.
What's that?
And the historic district is across the street.
The historic
Yeah.
district is across the
Yeah.
street, exactly.
Yeah, and like Jeffrey said, we have approved contemporary homes. I mean, there are pockets along Meadow Lane, obviously, there's a lot of contemporary homes there. In Wickapog, there are pockets of contemporary homes, even on Halsey Neck, we approved, but that's really set back from the street. So we have approved contemporary homes. I think this is a bit out of character with the neighboring homes. And one of my biggest concerns, and that's why I asked for this shot of the position of the house, is the light pollution. There's a lot of glass in this house. And I worry about the nighttime illumination, both winter and summer when it comes to that, and the impact it would have on surrounding homes, or even, from the street, from that perspective. So I have to agree with most of the comments made so far about it just being out of character with the surrounding homes first and foremost.
Here's what I would say. To Alice's point that it's a historic district across the street. There are some very successful examples of contemporary houses, but when they've been successful, they have borrowed in a contemporary version of the architectural language of the village of Southampton. I see none of that here. What I see is a house that would look great in Montecito. I think two things. If you drive down Meadow Lane and look at the two big white houses on either side of the beach, they light up like the airport at night, and they annoy all the neighbors because they've turned into very light white boxes. I think this would have the effect and worsened on this street in that neighborhood because of the proximity of the neighbor. If you look at James Merrill over off of Wickapog has built several very nice contemporary houses in there, and they're large, they're 12,000 square feet, but they've found a design language that bounces off the design language of Southampton versus ignoring it. I think this house is not harmonious with the neighborhood where it's at. As a matter of fact, I think it's disharmonious with the neighborhood that's at, and it seems to have taken into consideration, literally not taken into consideration all the neighbors, because with the amount of light facing every direction from this house to those neighbors on this street, I just think it would be problematic. So I don't think this house is appropriate for that lot on that street in this village, so I think you're gonna have to rethink it. Okay? Do I have any questions, comments from the public?
You guys are it now. Nobody.
All right.
You're the presenter and the public.
So I would urge you to go back and sort of rethink it. And I would urge you when you rethink it, don't rethink it in a way that does have solar panels facing the street, because that's not going to be architecturally harmonious to that street. Architectural panels facing anywhere to the street in Southampton, nothing says historic village less than solar panels facing the street. But I think there's a way to make a contemporary house. I don't think this is it, especially in this location. And even the materials don't borrow from normal materials in the village. You haven't found a material tie, whether it's shingle, whether it's roofing, whether it's anything to bring the language of this house closer to the language of a village that was started in 1640. Okay? I know that sounds harsh, but you might as well know now, because as you're going to need votes, and this idea doesn't really have them. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you is, you're going to rethink this. When do you think you'll be ready to come back in front of us? It feels to me like February 13th is a stretch. I'm happy to put you on for February 13th, and if you want to bring us another idea forward, you can, and then we'll be happy to adjourn it further. Or we can move it to the meeting after the 13th if you feel that's more reasonable.
That's the 27th.
We'll give it a try for the 13th.
Okay.
I'd prefer to be placed
But
on
I would urge you to take all these comments into consideration before you come back. So I move we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to February 13th for 495 Ox Pasture Road. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Next up, we have 101 Old Town Road, Maria Denzillo, and are the affidavits in order?
No, we won't be hearing that tonight.
It's postponed.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that. Okay. Then I move we accept the applicant's request to
No.
postpone.
It's
or
not
we're just
even-
not hearing
No.
because we can't take
Yeah.
jurisdiction.
It's new, right?
Okay.
It's gonna be renoticed for that other meeting.
Okay. So then I'll move on to Driveway Gates Historic for Matthew and Heather Stofik at 40 North Main Street. For electric driveway gate.
They were not here last meeting.
We did take jurisdiction. Michael Marin?
Oh, I'm sorry, they were not here last meeting.
Are they here? Great.
I don't think I have the drawing on that.
Are they coming in on Zoom?
Is it really cold in here?
It is.
Yeah.
I thought it was just me.
I had to put my vest on, yeah.
Yeah, the heat's off, I think.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, hello. Hi, Michael Marin here from East Hampton Fence and Gate.
Yep. Okay. Okay. You want us to put the gates up and take us through them?
That way, if you could help me just put the one image of the gate up, that would be helpful. I'm not sure how to do it on my own on Zoom.
Okay, so just so you know for the future, we now require the applicants to be able to post their drawings on Zoom, and that's been notified through the village. Correct me, Alex. But Alex, for tonight, do you have the ability to put this up?
Let me see if I have it digitally. My internet connection's a little unstable tonight.
Okay.
But let me see what I can do.
All right.
I can describe it.
You can describe, we'll describe it and hold it up. Okay.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
All right, well, I'm holding, why don't you take it, why don't you walk us through the gate design?
Unless, Sage, I can take a picture and send it to you.
This was what was submitted.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Thank you.
Sorry, it was not oriented correctly.
That's okay.
Oh, that's perfect. I can see it. It's just the one image, so.
Okay. Okay, you want to walk us through size, transparency, materials?
The gate is gonna be, as shown in the drawing, it's white, natural materials, two brick masonry columns that match some details on the house.
What are the materials? Is it mahogany? Is it, what?
Yeah, it's mahogany, painted white.
Okay.
And there are actually currently there are two masonry piers that are there that were gonna be removed, and then the gate's gonna be moved back just a little bit, a few feet back.
Are these masonry piers existing?
There are two masonry piers existing there currently, but they're not quite in the right location. They're gonna have to be moved back a little bit.
Okay. And are the piers painted or are they brick?
They're natural bricks, same as they are now, and they match the detail on the house.
Okay. And what's your calculated transparency on this?
50%. We're planning to meet the transparency concept that the board is
It's
advocating.
50% here.
All right. All right, so you're aware of the new gate policy that we have about gate height. And what size is this property, the lot?
I do not know that information off the top of my head.
But it looks like less than half an acre.
Well, it's not so much an issue as the frontage.
Well, yeah, true. And it's a narrow frontage.
Yeah.
All right. Board members. John?
I think that the transparency needs to be opened up a bit. I think you're at 50% you're looking at is just for the spindles themselves, not for the entire gate structure itself. I would like to see the curve of that gate actually reversed. So instead of the peak being at the top, it's there's a gully in the bottom, which would make the gate much less of a blockade-looking structure for such a narrow lot. And I think the columns are a bit heavy, or is that just me?
No, it's not you.
So, there you have it.
Okay.
Well, the column, the column.
So let's wait for the comments first, please.
Okay, so the I'm sorry, I'm so tongue-tied tonight, but in terms of size and mass and lack of transparency and height, it's all a bit much, has to be taken down to be more harmonious to there are very sparse and few gates in that area. And again, this is part of the village, you know, the older village. And these are gates that I would see in a state area as opposed to a village.
Yeah, Connecticut. Yes.
Personally, I don't think gates belong in that section of North Main Street at all. However, Michael, I'm not going to say you can't put the gates on, but they have to be harmonious to the historic nature of that area. These are nice gates, but not for that property. Too heavy, too tall, too massive, not enough transparency, not of the vernacular of the historic district within a village. Within a village, meaning of in-village property.
I'm thinking this is the house?
Yes?
Yeah, I don't see where it goes with the house. You're talking about the brick went with the house. I don't see that connection.
Well, there's a brick column there currently, so it's just is that in your photo?
No, it's not. I'm just seeing the house.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a pre-existing brick column that's there now.
Yeah, but does it?
Yeah.
It's very similar in size.
Does it have a
You
gate
know, the
attached?
nature of making-
No, but
the
exactly,
nature of making these
Yes.
No,
The
Yes.
nature of making these brick columns is, you know, you sit about the narrowest you can make it is either 3 bricks
Oh, I know the house.
Right.
per row or 2 bricks per row, makes it.
All right,
too
so-
small.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say, because the original brick piers that were there to define the entryway. They were not there to hold up gates. Therefore, they had a different purpose. And we've been through this before. We have a new, policy here that we want gates to be an average height of 4.5 feet, and we have a gate here that goes from almost 5.5 feet to 6 feet. And I don't believe you've achieved 50% transparency on this gate. So I think you're going to have to go back to the client and sort of rethink that and come back with a gate that fits more in line with the policy.
Oh, there, thank you for that. Thank you. We can see
Oh,
that.
there you go.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what the purpose of the gate is. Because if it's for deer, it's not going to keep them out.
All right.
That doesn't.
I understand, but I'm just
No,
curious if that
that,
might have had something to do with it.
No, actually, the driving force for this client, there's a letter that was attached to the application in the file from this client, and, I don't really need to get into all that, but it was a security issue, and it's all detailed in the letter that the client addressed to you for.
That actually, there's no relevance to the reason when it comes to our review of the structure itself. We've gone through that before
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
well.
look at the gate next door.
Yeah.
Right.
The gate next door is,
That's a better example.
yeah,
yes.
very different.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's
I-
just it's short,
I think-
shorter than me.
I built the gate next door.
Okay, so I think for where we are, the truth is, you've heard the comments. You're not gonna have the votes for this one tonight because it's too tall and it doesn't actually match the policy that we've set for gates, which we're all aware of. So I think my suggestion would be come back to something which is closer
there
to
it is.
falling in line with the policy for Southampton.
I understand. Yeah,
Okay.
the client is driving this.
I understand. So
Yeah.
just let the client look at the tape, and then come back with something that's more appropriate to the village, and we can go from there.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thanks.
so
Thanks,
are you so you're asking for an adjournment?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I move we accept the applicant's request from 40 North Main Street for an electric gate to February the 13th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thanks, folks.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. So that is the end. We have, just so everyone is aware, on the landmark designation, a letter went out to the folks from Bethel Church today. So do we need to do anything with that tonight?
I think we should adjourn it, maybe more than one meeting?
Yeah. Can I?
As part of that, we
Yeah.
asked
Yeah.
for a sense of where they were in terms of timing. So, and we want very much to work with them. So, there's no rush.
For right now, I'm going to say we should adjourn it to February 27th. I
Okay.
think it will take them longer than that, but for right now, at least push it out 2 meetings until we have more information.
Yeah, we might have an update from
Yeah,
them.
So do I need to make a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I move we adjourn the landmark designation review for 209 Windmill Lane until February 27th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The next thing we have is a work session discussion, but I believe we have to go into session.
Either board can vote to go into executive session on this. I'll defer to Alice, but I think we can do that to discuss personnel matters. We have a proposal from a potential.
I think because the proposal contains financial information, we should go into session.
I agree.
Okay.
So you have to move to go into executive.
Yes.
So I move that we go into executive session. Do I
Second.
have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Executive session. Do I
Second.
have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.